Hey everyone, this time Gary's returned and there's been a shit ton of news, so we're going to go through all of that. Yeah, you can introduce yourself again if you want.
Yeah, I'm Gary, Captain Garrison, or Jack, and you probably know me. I've been on the podcast before. I've been streaming a lot more recently, so maybe you know me from there. I don't know, but yeah, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, so far your episode of the podcast is our most popular one. Not the only reason why you're back, but might be one of them. Yeah, so what have you been up to recently?
School. Since our last podcast, I've been doing school a lot more. All online stuff, but school.
I'm sure we've talked about this before, but what is it you're actually doing?
Right now, I am in my. This is my senior year of high school, but I am doing it through a local community college, so getting some basic credits in before I go off to a real college next year.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly unfamiliar with how American schooling works. So
I mean, I am too sometimes.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, for us, your last 2 years of high school are our 2 years of college. And then after that, we go to uni, and you essentially have college and uni are the same thing, aren't they?
Yes, our secondary education, if you will. That makes sense because, I mean, for people who know they're going to go to college, we have the option to take those level of classes in our primary high school education. So I spent last year, taking classes that got me college credit at my school, and I spent this year taking classes that gave me college credit at the college through online because of COVID stuff right now. But it makes a lot more sense to me to just send kids who want to do that and are able to do that to that college.
Well, for us, it's a kind of different because so our high school ends at 16. And then from 16 to 18, you have to be in, it's either education or an apprenticeship, or you can get certain jobs. But you have to be doing something within those 2 years. So most people go on to college, but then some of them will do trade apprenticeships and stuff. And then there's vocational colleges and stuff where if you want to become a priest, you go there. And then after 18 is when you just sort of do whatever you want. So there's an entire extra set of new exams and new qualifications that you get in college that you wouldn't get in other places. It's at high school you choose what you want to do for your classes, but there's also the basic ones you have to do, your English, science, and maths.
Right.
Then at college though, you completely choose everything yourself. It's each bit specializes more essentially. So you choose your topics for high school, but do them with everything else that you need to do. And then at college, you specialize down to somewhere between 3 and 4. It depends where you go. And then after that, you specialize to just doing one class at uni.
Okay, so uni is more because we have in our college, so there's undergraduate and graduate study. And
no, because we still have that as well.
Oh, okay, you still have that.
So a BSc, which is your bachelor's, that's undergrad.
Right.
And then once you've got your undergrad, you go on to do your graduate. So that's when I got my master's.
So that's the same as over here. Okay. It's just you guys have that weird 2 years where it seems like you have more, you have to decide to do something, but it seems like you have more freedom to choose from things.
Yeah, definitely. That's when you would go to, say, if you wanted to become a plumber or something, you can go and do an apprenticeship in becoming a plumber between 16 and 18. So that you just go straight into the job afterwards.
We have something like that, at least in my school district. I know not all counties and not all areas have schools like this. We have a technical school, which is, you can choose to go half the day to do a vocation like electrician or plumbing or all sorts of stuff. And they do that. And once you start in about age 16, you have the choice to do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's if you don't do that, like I've wanted to do, I knew I kind of wanted to go into journalism or something involving writing and public stuff. And none of that at the tech school appealed to me, so I was just stuck with the regular high school classes. So it seems like, from what people have told me, that even if you don't choose to go with like a traditional like labor trade or a tradition like plumbing or whatever, you still kind of have more choices to specialize at that point for all sorts of things.
Sorry, I'm just clarifying. Did you mean for your school and not for mine?
Oh, for in England or in the UK?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like at college, well, my college was a bit fucked because I didn't do very well at college. For me at college, I originally chose. You essentially just choose 4 classes and just do those 4 classes, and that's it. It's not quite true because I went to a Catholic college, so I had to do religion as well. But you didn't get a qualification for that; it was just a thing you had to do.
Right, just for the
yeah. So I had to do religion at college, like I said, and then there was like another class which was, it wasn't like a real class or something, but you had like like you have like, I don't know, because I don't know how similarly it works for you. Like you get like I don't know what to call them. I legitimately don't know what to call them.
An elective?
But like when you go to, when you go to like your science class or whatever, it's just like random people. Like just people from different bits of your school. But then when you like start the day, you always start in the same place with the same people.
Homeroom.
Yeah. Okay. Right. What? Yeah. I can't. Honestly, it's been like 10 years, so I can't remember what that's called.
Which our school doesn't really do homeroom anymore. We don't.
Right.
We haven't. I think a lot of schools are kind of going away from that.
Right. Okay.
I never really had the concept of a homeroom always seemed outdated to me.
We had them, but it was honestly mostly just for registry purposes. It was honestly just to make sure everyone was there at the start of the day, so they were always in the same place at the start of the day, and that was like it. And it was like the teacher who took you for that is the person that you would like see at a parents' evening or something like that. But yeah, so besides those 2, you got to choose everything yourself. So I chose, the first time I went to college twice. The first time I went, I took science, and by science I'd mean all 3 sciences. And what was the other thing? Maths, I want to say? No, psychiatry, that was it. I took psychiatry, physics, biology, and chemistry. And I hated it. And I like dropped out. And then I went back the year after, and I took, what did I take? I think I took physics at first, and maths and further maths. So further maths is like actual maths, like real world application maths. And then further maths was more like abstract stuff. So it's like more proving formulas and stuff. And then I hated doing physics. So I dropped physics and started doing computing instead. And that's how I ended up getting into programming.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you do actually get quite a lot of control over what you do over those 2 years. And then again, as soon as you graduate there, you apply to go to uni, pretty much. Most people who go to college end up going to uni. Not everyone, but a large amount of them. Because it's like actually a requirement of the college that you like go through and do the application process, unless you can like prove that you've got something else planned. So, like you remember we were talking outside of the podcast about how, for me, when you apply to a uni, the entire thing was done through like one website,
right?
And they connect to your college, get all of your scores from college, and then send it off to the places you apply to, and that's it.
So that kind of happens here at state levels.
Right.
So there, and if you have like, so I applied. I'm not doxing myself. I don't live in this state, but I applied in North Carolina, and there was a system for like the schools in North Carolina for me to apply to, but it didn't really work for me because I lived outside of that state.
Right. Okay.
And there is a lot more of like with that I've been applying to different schools recently, and certain things I've been able to get my counselor to send in for like my transcript, but certain things I've had to pay like fees to
Yeah.
send in, and it's individual fees every time you want to send it to a school. So if I want to send my standardized test scores, luckily, since I did it through the school, I took the test through my high school. I was able to send a couple of them for free, but it's like $13 per score report to each school
Right.
that I want to apply to, on top of paying $70 for the test. And I mean, there's so many fees and so many different things that they squeeze as much money as they can out of you.
Yeah, like we've talked about this, and it's just completely insane to me. While you were talking about that, it reminded me of something else. Do you have over here? It's called clearing. I don't know what it would be called for you. Essentially, it's a system where when do you find out when you've been accepted by a school, by a uni or college?
So as soon as you get all the application stuff in, it's depends on the school. Because the first school I applied to, I got it about 3 or 4 days later, but they sent the acceptance letter in the mail, and it was
Right.
dated
Okay.
earlier. And then another school just sent me an email on like the next day after I had everything turned in.
Okay. Right. So over here, the way it works is essentially you apply to the university you want to go to,
Mm-hmm.
and tell them what the college you're at expects you to get for your grades. So like say you're expected to get like an A, an A, and a B, or like an A, and a B, and a B, something like that. You get that, send that to the uni, and then the uni says, well, if you get this score, which is like they'll say you have to get two A's and a B, or an A and two B's, or some variation upon that. They'll say as long as you hit this criteria or better, we'll accept you.
Yes, so there is certain things with like standardized tests where they have certain minimums, right? So you have to have a
Yeah,
certain minimum score and a minimum GPA for that kind of stuff.
that's pretty much the same. But what I was getting at is that over here, everyone finds out the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, there is one day in August when everyone gets their scores through, and most people like go to the college and like pick up the results from there. And basically, as soon as you open up the envelope, you find out whether or not you've got accepted by the college, by the uni. Sorry, and then depending on what happens, there's a second separate thing that happens like usually the day after, quite soon after, which is called clearing, where everyone who didn't get in can then like just phone up the universities and just say, do you have spaces? Because sometimes they'll have a space even if you don't meet the criteria, and they'll let you on, which is actually how I got into uni. Because like you were talking about with the scores thing, so our grades are given scores afterwards as well. So to get onto the course I wanted to get on, I needed 260 points, and I left college with 60. So I was like nowhere near.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just rang them up and just said, do you have any spaces? And they said, yeah. And I was like, all right then. And that was the end of it. Like I was just like I'd just been accepted to the uni at that point, and then it was just a matter of like arranging to pay fees and that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering if there was anything similar to that over there.
I know we don't really have that day because so many different colleges. It's been a pain in my ass to balance like all the different deadlines from the different colleges that I want to apply to, because they're all like there's scholarship deadlines and application deadlines and early application deadlines that are all completely different. There's no like unified version of any of that.
Yeah.
And so it's been a bit of a struggle to keep up with a lot of that, and to have that like, is that the same for like scholarship deadlines and that sort of stuff? Are they all on the same day too?
So the scholarships and stuff tend to not be, but the actual like, it's weird because there's like explicit deadlines and then there's like implied deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the actual deadline of every single application to every single university needs to be in on this day.
Right.
But then because it's technically first come first served, like I live in Manchester. Manchester's got like a really big university that's like really like well known and really like it's a really good university. But because of that, it's really popular. So it's first come first served, which means the later you get in your application, the less likely you are to get a space anyway. So it has like this implicit deadline, but it's not actually like real.
But are those deadlines the same at Manchester at other universities for scholarships? Are they the same across the board for that, or do you know?
The scholarships are completely down to the university usually.
Okay.
So some of them, there are like other places you can go to get scholarships. Like if you're becoming, I want to say like a nurse or a psychiatrist, something like that. There are like there are like external foundations that will sometimes do scholarships for that.
Occupation, yeah, depending on your department.
Yeah, but not always. But the university ones are handled entirely by the university. Like the university I actually ended up going to, they do a scholarship that you technically have to apply for, but it's kind of just given to you anyway. Like if you are, like if you go on to do a master's, but you did a bachelor's there, you just get £1,000 off your course. Like you have to fill in a form and apply for it, but it's basically just given to you. And you can kind of apply for it whenever. You're supposed to do it by a certain time, but at the same time, they're just sort of like, they understand that it's entirely internal, so they will probably just let you slide for a bit on that.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to some of the academic scholarships. Like I got one because I did pretty decent on my standardized tests. I was lucky enough I took them 5 different times and got some pretty good scores on them one time.
Yeah.
And and that got me $9,000 a year at one school for 4 years, which is great.
Like, how much is a year at sort of colleges for you? Like, I know it's like drastically different for each one, but
it definitely depends. It's way more expensive if you're going out of state.
Yeah.
Because you don't pay into that public funding for your state. So it's usually around like $9,000 to $13,000 in state.
Right.
And then up to like $27,000, $28,000 for out of state.
Yeah, sorry. How many years does a course tend to last for you?
Does a course tend to last?
Yeah, like a class.
A class.
Sorry, they're called courses over here. Like the entire thing would be one course.
Right. So I mean, there's 2 semesters that's about like this year with my classes I signed up for the fall semester that's August to December.
Oh no, sorry. I meant like your entire time at uni. How long will that be?
You can do your. Are you asking me or like the general you?
Just like I was just wondering, like over here, a bachelor's is 3 years.
Okay, I believe a bachelor's is 4 years over here.
Right. Okay. So you can do certain bachelors over here, which will be 4, but they tend to come with what's known as foundation year, and that's for like highly technical stuff that people might not be familiar with. Like when I was explaining before that I got in through clearing, I actually got in on the foundation version of my course.
Right.
Which meant that I would have been there for 4 years instead of 3. But then because I had familiarity with the course already, because it was a programming course and I'd just done it at college, they just bumped me up straight away. So yeah, but like generally over here, they all last 3 years.
So from what I've heard and seen, obviously, I haven't really experienced this because I'm just now entering college and it's all kind of fresh. But a lot of what I've been doing in high school, like those basic courses, your gen eds as we call them, is that first year. You don't spend. It seems like to me you don't spend that first of 4 years really doing what your major is. You spend it doing like the required science, English, history,
That's weird
kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I've been trying my best to get those out of the way while I'm still in high school.
Okay. That makes sense.
And
it's very strange, but it makes sense.
So that's something I've been, because I'm taking, like I said, I'm taking some classes at the local community colleges here. I'm taking a literature and a biology class. And it's the most basic, like, introduction to biology. My freshman year biology class, was basically the same as this, you know. So it's this weird kind of like these general core education classes that people have to take in their first year that takes up most of that first year, and then the rest are kind of focused on. So in a way, it is kind of 3 years. And hopefully for me, I will be able to skip a lot of those, or I will not skip. I've already done them.
I also just find the way your courses are structured really strange. Like over here, I did a course in programming. So I was like, I want to do the programming course, and then I went to my programming lectures, and that was it. Like, that's all I did. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, the whole thing with you, where you, like, have to, like, choose classes to go to and, like, apply for them, like, granted, I'm not particularly, like, familiar with it.
I mean, do you not have, like, are there not, like, only a certain amount of people that can be in one class?
I mean, technically, yeah, but we're talking, like, 80 to 100 people.
See, classes, yeah. I mean, classes fill up. Even online classes that I've had have, like, a cap that they fill up at. And so this year I had to apply, you know, and make sure I got in before those filled up to get the ones on the days that I wanted, you know what I mean? So
you have to, like, apply to do individual classes on days that you can do and, like, shit like that, like you're saying now. That is not how it works here at all.
Right.
Like, here, it is literally, I rang up and said, can I do the programming course? And they said, yes, you can do the programming course. And then they sent me a timetable with, this is when all of your classes are. And it was like, this is a class in this sort of programming, this is a class in that sort of programming. And that was just it. Like, all of that is handled by the university and has absolutely nothing to do with me. And the only thing I do is, like, if I ring them up and just be like, I have, like, a job that runs at this time, I cannot make this class, they will try and fit me into a different class running the same thing, maybe. Or they'll just send me the work and I just have to do it on my own. The whole, like getting credits for courses.
It's weird that we pre-schedule all of our courses for the semester over here.
I think, like, what I'm getting at is, like, do you not have to do, like you said you're doing was it literature and biology?
Yes, those are my two main classes this year.
Right, so
for my last year of high school.
I think it's basically that is the whole, like, major and minor stuff as well. Like, I don't get that. That's just not a thing over here.
Well, I mean, it's the same as, like, selecting. I mean, you say you want to do the programming course, and then you're just dedicated to it for, like, 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you can switch around, and there's things that you have to do, but
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, here, you can't. There is no switching. There is no change. Like, if you do the programming course, you do nothing but programming. And what I mean by that is, like, it's not like you do a major and a minor. You don't do, like, a major in programming and a minor in something else. You just do programming. So, like, you're saying that you were doing, like, the literature and biology and stuff. So if you're doing the literature at some points and the biology at others.
Well, those are just my two classes this year. I have it's kind of like in college, you said you pick your 4 classes. And since this is still I'm still technically in high school, I'm just doing it through the community college. Those are just the 2 classes. Those are not going to be my major.
Yeah. So maybe it's just, like, a fundamental misunderstanding on my part of, like, how it works over there. But It sounds very alien.
This is a really weird conversation because there's like weird differences in terminology, and it's very hard to explain to someone who on both ends for us to explain to each other these weird systems that we've just never had any experience with.
Yeah,
because they both feel so alien, and there's like a weird misunderstanding of terminology and plays. It's weird.
Well, I'm basically just going off like what I've seen on like TV and shit. That's like it. So
yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I don't really know how it's going to work once I get into college, right? I in some of my applications, I've had to declare a major like when I applied to that college. Some of them haven't made me do that, but and there's each college calls it a different thing. So I wanted to do journalism. Most colleges don't even have a journalism major. They have like news media or mass communications with a focus in broadcast journal, and there's so much like weird terminology, and it gets even weirder when you cross borders and countries. And
like over here, well, sorry, not over here. For me, I did a course in games programming, so it was programming with a focus on games. It is like the only one that exists, as far as I'm aware. Like in the country, it is the only. For sure, it's the only one called that, or it was at the time. But a lot of them are all like it's like programming with games, where it's like 90% is just like assembly line shit. Like not actually assembly line, but like like really
it's
like
mechanical, it's practical, it's not like design with coding.
Whereas like the game programming course was like, this is how you make the physics works in games. Like it was very much more focused on that. But the point I'm making is that when I got to do my masters, we got a new guy in. He came from doing a thing called MIT, which was like media information technology thing.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, like how is that like applicable to this? Because it was a games development masters, and he came from he did some coding, but he did like app development for like maps and shit. And I'm like, I understand like the physical like writing code is the same, but like the transferable skills just seemed odd to me. And it's just like it'd be nice if places were a bit more consistent, is I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah. It's honestly been like stressful for me to decide, because for a while I was like, I want to do English, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do English because I don't want to like, there's like, that's not practical. So I moved between a lot of different things throughout high school that I wanted to major in.
Yeah.
And my dad did a good job of reminding me that like you can go into college with your major undecided. You can do that whole first year, get your gen eds, do all that, take classes in certain things. Like my dad started out college as an art major doing photography, and he ended up doing having a major in computer geography or electronic cartography or something like that, because he took a geography class, learned about it, really liked the department, and then switched his major.
That is not a thing here at all. Like there is, the closest it gets to that is if you don't like the course you're doing, you could apply to do a different course, but they don't have to take you, and then you just drop out.
I mean, it could be like that at colleges. I don't know how that transfer process works because I've never experienced it, but it...
Oh yeah, no, so what I meant in particular was there is no, like you said, like he took a class in the geography and learned that he liked it. That isn't possible here. Like, it's not like you could learn you like a different thing while you're doing it.
So you guys just don't have electives? Yeah. You guys don't have elective courses?
No, there's nothing. There is the course, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Because... I mean, that's something I'm really looking forward to in going to college, because I went to a small rural high school where the only electives we had were like football or yearbook or band, like sports, band, yearbook and then the electives that we have to have by the county, like personal management,
Yeah.
And so there wasn't really an option for me to do new and interesting things.
Yeah, like I've got like a vaguely funny story relating to that. At my university, they complained that the games department was like, it's kind of like it was like automatically segregating itself from everyone else, because like it's shocking, I know, but people who make games tend to be quite like introverted. So they weren't like taking like massive part with all the rest of the university. So we were also like in our own building on our own. Well, mostly on our own, at least. We had like an entire floor of a building to ourselves, right? So they decided to fix this by building a new building that was even bigger than the last building and putting us on the top floor of that, even further away from everyone else. And everyone's just like, what? Like, how is this the solution to encouraging us to integrate by putting us even further away? But that was just as I was leaving. So they got like all new schools and stuff. But.
So was the games like, because colleges are kind of in America are divided, like you have departments and then you have like courses in those departments.
Yeah.
Right. So when I go to the one school had like the Department of Mass Communication, and then it has like news broadcasting, television production, under all of that under mass communication.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that.
So you have more fluidity in your department, I think, from what it seems like, to move around within that. Like if I decide I wanted to be a mass communication, like apply with the mass communications department and get scholarships from the department, because there are department scholarships and school scholarships too. Like I have more of an ability to move around what my major is within that easier than it would be to go to other departments.
So I suppose that's technically true here, but it's mostly just because more of the skills are transferable than anything. And also it is easier as well, because it's like, if you say I turned out not to like programming all that much, but I was still enjoying the games stuff, I could literally just go to the head of my course and just say, I'm not really liking this, but I still want to work in games. And he could like go to the head of the game design course and just say, I've got this guy who wants to move over, is that all right? And they'll say maybe, and then you actually still have to go through the application process of switching and everything, but it's just a lot more likely to happen. But there's nothing like explicit that makes it any easier than anything else. No, not really.
It's a weird conversation, because I mean, obviously it's also, you have a lot more experience in your secondary education system than I have in mine.
Yeah.
Because I am just now entering secondary education.
So you were talking about the terminology differences as well, is that for us, secondary education is high school.
Oh, yeah.
So higher education, it might be the same for you, right?
I don't...
Well, no, because you have even more years than we do. Like, we don't have a middle school or anything.
I think in America, primary education is elementary through high school.
Right, okay. So for us, primary is it's literally just called primary school. It's where you go to till you're about 12. And then 12 to 16 is secondary education, and that's your high school. And then after that it's just all classified as higher education, or sometimes they'll call like college like sixth form as well. But it's that's basically
so
the same thing.
It's foreign and different, and I don't like it because it's different.
Yeah, it's I feel much the same. Right. We've spoken about colleges for 36 minutes nearly.
Yeah. So, let's get away from college. It's got me a little stressed out.
Yeah. So let's move on to the favorite segment that will hopefully never return, where I try a drink.
Oh, you got the Soylent?
Yeah. So I bought, basically, like, the shop I was at had bottles of Soylent, and they were really cheap. And I was like, I just need to know. Yeah, but I also bought this like 6 months ago, and I've had absolutely no desire to actually try it at any point. But but it goes out of date today. So
Yeah,
if
I
I don't
would
do
drink
it today, I'm never going to do it. Originally, my original plan for this was I was going to try it, record myself, try it, take a drink, say, oh, this tastes terrible, and then just throw it away. And that was going to be the entire video. But I never did that.
Just like a shit post.
Yeah, pretty much. But now let's try it. This is thoroughly entertaining, I'm sure. It's all right, actually.
That was a really good microphone swallow. It caught it really nice.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Sorry, I didn't think about being near the microphone when I took that drink.
That might be edited out for people who are listening.
or I might make it even louder.
Oh no!
Yeah, those are the choices. Yeah, it's all right actually.
What kind was it? Because there's different flavors.
I got the chocolate one.
Yeah,
it just tastes like a chocolate milkshake. That's it.
I mean,
I'm honestly kind of disappointed.
What were you expecting?
I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting it to be. I was expecting to get a bigger reaction out of it than. Yeah, it's all right. I don't know why I was expecting that, to be honest. If you've literally watched anything I've ever made, you know my reactions are basically, yeah, it's okay. Like, that just seems to be me as a person. I've spoken about this a few times where like people post like clips of them on stream and they're like screaming and reacting and stuff. And I posted a clip of me on stream last night where I said, "Oh, I hope that's okay." And that was like the big emotional moment of my stream last night was going, "Oh yeah, it's not too bad." Right. I should probably work on my reactions, but
I've been streaming Slay the Spire recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you uploaded it to your channel.
And it's been fun to stream it, but I always kind of feel kind of down energy unless I get to like a hype moment, and then I get that whole like thing that will like the yeah, like I do that a lot.
Yeah, I don't. I am like, I think in your videos you come across as pretty chill. You're like a bit less chill on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
it's because I'm not reading something that I wrote.
I think I'm possibly the opposite, just because on the podcast I'm way more unsure of myself. I find it easier to pretend to be emotional when I'm just reading off a script. Whereas when I'm like actually doing it, I'm just like, just unsure noises the entire time.
I feel more sure. I feel more comfortable in places like this because it's just, to me, it's just a conversation, right? But when I write something, I record it in some of my videos, it definitely feels. I feel less comfortable in being more professional.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
I think, have you gotten to the point with recording your scripts where you can like pick up in the middle of a line again?
No, I haven't, because I haven't been making that much stuff since school started.
Fair enough. It's a useful skill to pick up, and it's one that I had to learn because, especially when I was like earlier on recording stuff, like because I put out so much shit. But when I was like earlier on recording like scripts and stuff, I had to I just fuck up a lot and like have to re-record bits, and I like trained myself to try and make it sound like I'm in the middle of a sentence without actually having to say the start of it, if you get what I mean, because it just makes editing it back in so much easier.
So what have you been up to? We just talked about school.
Yeah, fair enough. I have not really done anything.
That's funny.
Yeah. Is it funny or is it depressing?
Is it? I mean, in the moment, it was funny.
That's fair enough. It's the best I can hope for, to be honest.
I mean, have you been playing anything?
I finished Control, so that was nice.
Yeah. What did you think about Control?
Control was pretty good. It was.
That's what I thought.
What did you play it on?
PS4.
So how did it perform? Was it?
It was okay.
Okay.
I had some issues at certain points, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was mostly okay for me. I had this weird issue though, where when I was running the game, like when I was like actually playing and stuff, everything was fine. But if I entered or exited a menu, it'd slow so much. I'd go to like 3 FPS going in and out of menus.
Yeah, menus were rough. Did you play it on PS4 as well?
No, I played it on PC.
On PC.
Yeah, I got the Ultimate Edition when it came to Steam.
Okay, so you played it with the new DLC too.
Yeah.
I didn't. I played the base game and then felt good enough to be done with it.
Did you play any of the DLC or not?
I did not, no.
Right, okay. So I won't spoil anything. The second piece of DLC is a bit weird.
It's the
Alan Wake one.
Yeah, that's not spoilers, right? That's in the name, isn't it?
Literally the name, yeah. It's good. It's interesting. It feels a bit strange. It's weird. It takes place after the end of the game. So Jessie as a character is in a place where she's more comfortable with the bureau.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she refers to herself as the director.
Oh, okay.
But she doesn't do that at any point in the game up until the end of the game. So you can play the Alan Wake expansion like about halfway through the game. So it was this weird thing, whereas like playing Jessie and she's all like, oh, I want to find out what's happening. Then going into this thing where like you're using mechanics that haven't been introduced yet, and you're like referring to yourself in a sort of like, oh, I'm the director, I'm really great. And I'm like, she's never said this before. And it's also like a lot more like comedic, which I feel like as the game progresses kind of develops that. But it was just weird.
It does.
It was weird the place where I played it at, basically. Like, I feel like it unlocked a bit too early. If it unlocked, like, basically, if it didn't unlock until you'd beaten the game, it would have made sense. But because it unlocks when it does, it felt really kind of odd.
Yeah, that's weird because, I mean, I guess they just kind of assumed that most of the people who would be playing it had already beaten it or had already been. Is there like doing another playthrough? But that is weird that it's put right there in the middle.
Yeah, well, the Foundation DLC, though, the first piece of DLC, that does unlock after the end of the game. You can't do that until you've beaten the game. And that, again, that actually introduces some of the mechanics that are used within the Alan Wake expansion. So, like, it's not like a spoiler or anything, but there's like a bit where you can go up to like a desk and say, can I have some help? And like just a random grunt will come and help you in the next fight or whatever. But that's a mechanic that gets introduced in the Foundation DLC. But you can use that in the Alan Wake expansion, which took place before that, but hadn't been introduced yet. So there's just loads of little things like that, which just, like, it was just a little bit dissonant, basically.
Yeah, they expect you to play it all in release order.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
not how that doesn't gel well with the complete edition like you played.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's all together.
One thing I will say, though, is that I've seen other people who have finished it in release order who said they didn't like the Alan Wake expansion because it doesn't leave the game off in a particularly interesting way. And I can completely understand that, because like the game feels like it has an end. The Foundation DLC feels like it has an end. The Alan Wake DLC just sort of goes, oh, this was fun, wasn't it? And then you just carry on with the rest of the game. But as the final piece of work, it would just feel very dissonant with everything else. So I think playing it in the order I played it in makes more sense and probably leads to a better experience, but it just feels a little bit weird in terms of like mechanics.
I really enjoyed Control, but it was one of those games where I enjoyed it, I played it, and then I was like, okay, something else now. you know, I don't. It's not something I see myself going back to, or even see myself really wanting to get DLC for anytime soon.
I think I feel differently. I think I liked it probably more than you from what you've said. Basically, I think if I'd played this last year when it actually originally came out, I probably would have put it on my Game of the Year list for last year. Like, it wouldn't have been like number one. It wouldn't have done better than Death Stranding or anything, but would have been like top 5 at least. It's definitely better than Pokemon Sword. But besides that, made my videos, did some streams, made an episode of the podcast you weren't on. That's pretty much it. I remember you said that you were working on a game.
Yeah, I had been playing around with Twine a bit, which is an engine for making like interactive fiction. And just kind of, I mean, I wasn't taking it really seriously. I was just kind of bored while in the middle of class or doing other stuff and fooling around with it. And I just made a little mini demo using a tabletop character that I had been writing out some backstory with. And so that was a pretty interesting creative outlet to just change up what I was making for a bit, because I made those 2 videos. I had written some stuff for some other videos, and I just did not feel like the motivation to capture footage, play through the games that I wanted to write about. I kind of lost it after that super hot video. I lost the motivation to make those kind of videos, so I just started working on other things. And that's something that I kind of struggle with creatively, is that I don't think I let myself be okay with doing other things. I always feel like I need to make myself see it as I'm not dropping something, I'm picking something else up, and I can't balance everything, obviously. So that's something I always weirdly kind of struggle with creatively, is I dip my toes in a lot of different areas, and so I never get super far in any of them, but I enjoy what I do in all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you were last on the podcast, I brought up that I was trying to write a video about title screens. I haven't written any of that since. I'm really interested in the idea still, but one of the things I want to talk about is the differences in title screens between The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't really have any urge to play The Last of Us 2. And until I do, I don't feel comfortable talking about the title screen, because while I'm like 90% sure I'm correct about it, I don't actually want to say it until I know for a fact that... Basically just talk about how like the way the title screen looks and the sort of like soundscapes of it and stuff like can kind of inform the emotions that you can expect to feel from the game as a whole.
Yeah, title screens are... I feel like this is kind of a boomer take, but title screens are kind of dying.
Yeah, Yeah, that's actually one of the things I wrote about as well. Is the like Breath of the Wild has one of the worst title screens. It's awful. It's literally just a slideshow with different pictures of Link, and that's like it.
It's not great. Yeah,
it's just a real shame, because there's some really good like mock-ups of like fly through title screens where it like flies around Hyrule and shows you different areas of it that would have like set the tone for the game so much better. But instead, you just get a picture of Link clinging to a rock face, and that's it. Like, it technically shows things you can do in the game, but it just doesn't convey the same emotions or anything. It's like a real shame, because there's like little things you can do like that. Like, it's a title screen. Like, granted, some people are going to ignore it, but there's just little things where it's like, make the title screen looks nice, and it really helps the game overall. Well,
yeah, especially on first impression.
Yeah.
Because I always remember the first time I look at a title screen and the last time I look at a title screen. I mean, I don't remember a whole lot of changes in between, but one of my favorite title screens is Half-Life 2, because it and this is not I guess it was a new thing in 2004, but it moves along with you when you play.
No, well, they did the same in the original Half-Life as well.
Did they?
They definitely did it in Source. So maybe they didn't do it in original, but they definitely did it in Source. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't play Source. I played the original Half-Life 1, and I don't remember that happening.
Maybe it was something they added in Source then, but I know we've seen it, that's all. But that came out around the same time anyway, the Source version, so you might just be right.
But that one, I always remember Half-Life 2's title screen, especially that very beginning. But I really do like title screens where you come back to them after the credits and they've changed in some way. That's always fun too.
So again, that's another thing I wrote about, because especially at the time I'd just finished Xenoblade Chronicles, and that does that. I won't spoil what it does, but it changes the title screen after you finish the game, and it's really nice.
Portal 2 is another really good one that does that. Man, remember when Valve like made game? Well, they did. They got Alex. Have you had a chance to mess around with any VR at all?
I have a PlayStation VR, but I bought it, set it up, played with it for say 2 hours the day I bought it, then put it away, and it's been in the box for the last 2 years.
Did we talk about this on the last podcast? I think we might have.
Yeah, I think we did. Either way, I would like to get into VR, but it's expensive.
Oh, it's expensive, yeah.
I don't really want to pay Facebook either, which is actually something I wanted to talk about a bit later anyway. So,
yeah, I have a friend who has one of the newer HTCs, and messing around with that is pretty fun. But I think we did talk about this last time, so I won't stay on it too much.
That's fine. Like most of last month's podcast between me and CC was just me like saying things I'd already said again. Anyway,
riveting.
Yeah. So the reason I brought up the game you had been working on is because since then I started using Twine a lot, like messing around with something. Because there's a game idea that I'd had for a while, and it was actually I mentioned it in the last podcast, but it's based on one of the lines from Goonies vs. E.T.
Okay.
There's a line in the song. I don't know why I always forget it. It's not that I forget it, if I'm being blatantly honest. I remember it perfectly well, but I become so unsure in the moment that I'm getting it right that I never want to say it. I'll just bring it up again to make sure. That was it. Okay, right. So it's maybe if I had another chance, I would give another chance to you. If I make another wish, I would wish for a wish for you.
Oh, yeah. Is that the hook?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
It is. But it just set off this like path in my head to like this like full game and everything. The issue is that it's quite a large scope, like the game that I want to make, and it's only me. So I at the very least wanted to get something done. So I started working on the like prologue chapter to the game in Twine. And I really hate Twine. I just hate Twine so much. Like, why are there so many compilers, and why do they all have different rules? Like, why do they have 3 different forums? And 2 of them are closed. But when you just Google something, it just gives you a response from the last time someone Googled, like from the last time someone asked the question on the forum. You click it and then it goes, oh, well, this forum's closed now, so it sends you to the new forum. You Google the same thing, and then you find out that that forum's closed as well, and that sends you to the next forum. And then that forum's like, well, which version of Twine are you using? I'm like, the one from the Twine website. And they're like, well, which one is that? And I'm like, I don't have a fucking clue. Like, I've started using this like a week ago. I just know it's Twine. I got it from the Twine website. Which Twine is it? But there's Twine, and then there's Sugar Cube, and there's another one called Sugar something, which people get mixed up between a lot. And then there's Harlow, and I'm just like, I don't fucking know. It's whatever the Twine version is I'm using.
Is that common with like open source programs like this though? Is that?
It may well be, but it is not something I'm familiar with as a all of my programming has been like, there was like basic programming in fucking Notepad for like HTML stuff.
Yeah.
Like you just wrote code in Notepad and then opened it in a web page and it worked, and that was it.
I remember doing some of that.
Yeah. There's Dreamweaver for basically the same thing, but it just like showed you a bit more about how to use like CSS and shit. Then there was a thing called Delphi, which I used to do Pascal programming. Then there's Xcode for like Apple stuff, for like what was it? Objective-C, that was it. And then Unity, which I use JavaScript and C# in, and then Unreal, which was C++ and blueprints and stuff. Like, so I've only ever been used to like pretty much just working on that one compiler. And it was always just like, how to do this thing in Unity, and that was it.
Right.
Whereas when I'm like, how to do this thing in Twine, and it gives me like 6 different compilers, and all of them have different rules to it, and I'm just like, can you fucking not, please? All I want is, I want to know how to go back. That is literally it. I know that there's the menu buttons. I know those work.
Those move the game state, right?
Yeah, we've spoken about this previously. Like, they move the game state, which means if you change the game state on a page and then click the back button, it reverts to the previous state. So it doesn't include the things you've done on that page. Whereas if you've got a button that goes back to the last page, it again updates the state as it moves.
But
that's better.
Couldn't you just integrate that as a link that says back?
That's what I'm saying. You're supposed to be able to, but it never fucking works. So the way it's supposed to work is that you do like, the way that I've seen most commonly explained is that you do back, and then in the where you set your links up, you just like a word and then point it to, and it's a thing called, I think it's previous and then brackets, just open close brackets, which is just calling a function called previous that runs in JavaScript, and it just gets the name of the last thing you came from. That's what it's supposed to do. But the Twine compiler that I'm using at the very least just keeps creating a new page called previous. So it doesn't actually work.
And
there's just loads of little things like that. And the little issues I keep running into like that are the things that are desperately putting me off actually working on anything. Like, because I know you had like a similar experience, but that was also kind of my fault when it came to coloring links.
Yeah. We were talking about that.
Yeah, that was like explicitly my fault, but if I'd never suggested coloring links, you probably wouldn't have looked at it ever. But
see, this is very interesting because we're coming from Twine at kind of two different directions.
Yeah.
And like you're coming at it from much more of a bigger knowledge base of coding than I ever have, and I'm coming at it as like, oh, this is just a neat writing tool. And so I don't experience that. I mean, I've had some frustrations with the different versions as well.
Yeah,
but I haven't ever been doing anything super high level in it. I've just kind of been dicking around.
Yeah, well,
so
the system that I want,
it's good for dicking around.
Like, I was having fun with it until I got to this point, and I was like, nope. So the only thing that I want is I want to, like, do you remember when we were talking? I was talking about how you could have different colored links, and the links would send you to different places based on the context of that word.
Right.
So, like, say if you wanted just like a flavor link, it would send you to the flavor page, and then you come back to it afterwards. So that works perfectly fine. You can like manually like hard code that to send you to the page and back for anything that will only ever be useful on that one page. So like, if you're like, you enter the room, there is a chair. You can click the chair and read about the chair. If that is the only time that will ever happen, you can hard code that in to say, this chair takes you to this page, and this page takes you back to the first page, and that will be fine. The issue is when you're in situations where, like, in the game I was working on, there was like a character who comes with you. So I wanted to have just a system where, just in case you ever like came back to it later on or something, and you couldn't remember, you could just click the person's name, and it would take you to the description for them, and then you just come back afterwards, and that was it. But when you're doing that on multiple pages, you're like every time they appear, and it sends you back to the same description page, and then you come back again each time. All I want from that is the system to just come back. But like I say, the system that exists changes the game state, which I don't want to change. Like, in this situation, it is actually technically fine, but it's better practice to not do it, essentially.
Right.
I just want this, and I don't get why it's so complicated. Like, that's just it. Like, this is actually honestly one of the reasons why I stopped doing programming as much and moved on to like visual programming systems, because that's just easier to, like, you literally just drag a box, and like, if the box connects and it works, and that's it. It's honestly one of the main reasons I stopped, is because like Googling shit, and it's like, oh, write these 10 lines of code, and you write the 10 lines of code, and then it doesn't work, and it's just like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. It works for me. And it's like, oh, fucking great.
Yeah, I've never excelled well at the brain processes that it takes to do coding, I don't think. I mean, I could if I applied myself, but it's not something that I feel like I would enjoy applying myself to in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Programming is interesting and it can be fun, but a lot of it is just like, a lot of it is just very daunting to get into a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then there's times when like stuff like this, where just like the tiniest thing will just become the most frustrating thing because you can't get a straight answer. And if you can't deal with that, you probably shouldn't keep programming. And a lot of the time I can't deal with it. And that's why I stopped. Like I say I stopped. I still delve back in every now and again, as I'm clearly talking about now. But it's that sort of thing. Like, just little bits you'll get so frustrated about. And if you can't get over that frustration, you probably shouldn't keep programming, to be honest.
Yeah, and that was kind of where I mean, I just felt like, so to give you some reference, I had a family member, my grandfather, who was like kind of a computer nut, and he hooked me up with a basic compiler at about age 8 and expected me to learn an outdated programming language when I was in like 3rd grade. And that has kind of soured me for a while.
As a quick side note, if you ever learn programming and you learn things like that, those sorts of people never run out of jobs. It's really weird. It is like people like me who only know like sort of like new level, like high level languages are actually surprisingly easy to find. It's the people who know low level languages or like old languages and stuff. Those people are so hard to find, they are never without work. So if you ever do get into programming, learn Fortran.
I learned a bit of JavaScript through school, and a bit of Python through just my own stuff. But that's all. Fortran is like an assembly, like,
yeah, that's
code,
what I mean.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's sort of like old shit. The programming is essentially measured on, like when I say levels, it's essentially measured on levels of abstraction.
Right.
So the lowest level is literally binary. And then you get the next level above is like assembly, and then it's like Fortran, and like it gets progressively higher.
Yeah.
The term is the level of abstraction comes from the lower level you are, the harder it is for humans to understand, but the easier it is for computers to understand, essentially. And essentially what every compiler does is it kind of runs down the stack.
Yeah, it translates.
So you write, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like you write in this really high level language, and then the compiler just works out how to run it in each lower level language. Like not exactly, not really, but basically works out how to run it in the lower level languages until it runs in the binary, and then goes. So yeah, though. So most people now, though, again, only learn the high level languages because they're the ones that are like easier to get into, like the ones where it's literally just writing words.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are the most interesting or easy to pick up, and
yeah, exactly.
The ones that are taught in high school courses, like in my case. And I didn't do bad at it in high school. I had other people. One time I had somebody give me $20 to fix their code, and their code was fine. It just wouldn't run because they forgot to put
like a semicolon or something.
Yeah, I think it was even on a comment. It wasn't even like on a run.
Yeah.
And I fixed it and took the $20 still, but
yeah. Oh, you would, wouldn't you? Right. Do you want to get into the news then?
Let's get right into the news.
That was enthusiastic. Yeah. So I realize I should explain, maybe. If you've ever listened to the podcast before, this time we're doing a news section because I felt like it.
Because there's been some news recently. There's been a lot of game announcements. There's been, we didn't get an E3 this year, but if we got everything that we've had drip fed to us at an E3, it would be a really good E3. Yeah,
it would have. Like a lot of people are celebrating the death of E3, but I'm gonna miss it.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if E3 just became like all Nintendo Directs kind of stuff. Yeah. That's fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I like getting it all at once and having that week and be excited for it. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Just this like constant blast of game news is great.
I have no need for the actual physical convention for E3 or for physical like trade shows. But I do like that shotgun blast of announcements.
Yeah,
that
I would miss physical conventions and stuff because like I usually go to Gamescom every year, so like I'd miss it if that went. But...
Gamescom, yes, I meant specifically for E3. I kind of stopped caring about what actually happened at the physical convention a while ago.
Yeah, fair enough. I think most people do, to be honest.
I think in Gamescom is a little different in certain ways.
Yeah, it's the largest gaming convention in Europe, definitely. Like last year, the last time I went was like 440,000 people over the course of 5 days. Yeah. It like my friends and I worked out at one point about how much money it brought in, and it was like close to like 3 billion euros. Just based on like average, like we averaged out about how much each one of us spent and just averaged out that across like every single person who went. But then we also took into account like we found out how much it costs to rent the space in the halls.
Right.
And it was like £1,000 a day per like table. And that was just for the indie booth. So like the big like PlayStation area is going to be like even more expensive, obviously.
Right.
So like just sheer amount of money that brings in is insane.
Yeah, and I think conventions like that or PAX that have more, definitely PAX compared to E3. E3's focus is a lot less off the indies, a lot less off stuff like that, and more on the big companies. Yeah. But it seems like to me that Gamescom and PAX and all those have a lot more opportunities for smaller developers to show off and for people to get to play new things.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like going, is just because the queues still get pretty big, but even then, like I think the longest I've ever queued for anything was about 3 hours, which is a long time for sure, but like over the course of 5 days, queuing for 3 hours for one thing wasn't really that bad.
Yeah. What was it for? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Rage 2. Yeah, like I didn't want to, but my wife really wanted to play it, and we queued for 3 hours, and we played it, and it was awful. And that was the end of it. It was just a complete waste of time. But did queue for Darksiders 3 at one point as well. That was a different year.
That's not bad.
My wife got on, they're called stations. She got on one of the stations and the controller was broken, so it just didn't work. And it was just like, this is like the most poorly set up thing ever. And we queued for like 2 hours to do it, and I really needed the toilet, but I couldn't go because we were at the front of the queue, and it was fucking awful. Like, it was fine, but...
That sounds rough.
Yeah, right. Anyway, this still isn't news.
Still, no news here.
Right. Do you have a particular favourite piece of news? Actually, right, no. I have a favourite piece of news. Yeah. Not because it's a favourite piece of news, but just because it doesn't really flow into any of the others, so I'll do it first.
Okay.
Right, so if you listen to last month's podcast, then you'll know that I like Pendulum. And Pendulum are releasing new music, and I'm pretty excited. It's their first new music in 10 years. And they've been like, they split up in 2012, got back together in 2016, but only did sort of like live tours, and now they're releasing an EP tomorrow. They released the first track of that today, and it's drum and bass. That's pretty much all I've got to say.
I've never listened to Pendulum. I've heard some people talking about this. I'm gonna have to check it out because
So my main thing is I like Pendulum because they're drum and bass, but they have the sort of like, they have this like rock centric vocals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the blend between the two that really gets me. The first track that they've released is just the drum and bass stuff, so it's still good. Like, I still like it. Yeah. Well, like that's what I'm getting at, is like literally almost every track. Like, there's like a 50-50 split of tracks that I like and tracks that I don't like. Don't like is a bit heavy, but like, you get what I mean. Like, it's basically every track with like vocals and like a normal like sort of like verse chorus shit. Those are the ones I like, and then the rest of them are drum and bass, purely the instrumentals, and that's like it. And that's just not really my thing. It's still good. It's still Pendulum. If you like Pendulum, you're gonna like this. But I'm really excited for tomorrow, because finally get some actual like new music out of them that I care about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I have not been keeping up with new music at all. I've been going deep into the Grateful Dead, country music, all sorts of weird rabbit holes that I live in recently. The other day I was listening to the Ape Escape soundtrack. So I
have like no familiarity with Ape Escape, so
I don't either. I had I've never played it. I just had a like relaxing PS1 music compilation playing, and then I heard a really chill. It's got an interesting kind of. It reminded me of Animal Crossing, like the first Animal Crossing, because the rest of the Animal Crossings, or at least after like New Leaf and New Horizons, my issue with their soundtrack was that they were. I found the soundtracks very relaxing, but they were a little bland. So like the original Animal Crossing had that kind of weird drum machine feel to it, but it was very like simple and felt like one dude kind of made it, which is probably true.
Yeah.
And I really, really dig that. And I wish some of that would come back, that just that kind of bouncy drum machine vibe. Because if you go back and listen to like 1 a.m. from the original Animal Crossing, it's so different than like the jazzy piano 1 a.m. from New Leaf or one of the later ones.
Yeah. Okay. It's speaking of PS1 discs.
Yes.
If you like the music from PS1 and PS2 demo discs, you'll like Pendulum.
Okay.
Because it sounds a hell of a lot like him.
Okay.
Like, the second album Pendulum did, I was talking about this the other day because I listened to it for the first time in a while. It basically just sounds like a PS2 demo disc. Like you could choose like half the tracks on that album and it'd fit on one of those discs, and you would not notice the difference. It's like almost perfect.
That sounds pretty good. I'll have to check that out then.
Yeah, they're really good. Like first album is very drum and bass. It's got some good songs. I'm not really a big fan. Second album is sort of more of the mix between rock and drum and bass. Third album goes even heavier into it, and then they just stopped. So hopefully we'll get back into it now. Hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah.
Right. Next up, do you have a preference for where we go next?
No, I mean, if you want to go down the list or just talk about... I'll let you take the lead on this.
Okay, cool.
Since it's your podcast.
Depends. Do you want to hear just me talk for a bit more, or do you want to talk to me too?
Are you talking about the RTX, the graphics card?
Yeah, pretty much. I was going to say, because if I get that out of the way, then we can just have a conversation for the rest of it, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
All right. So, next piece of news, the RTX 3000 announcement and 3080 released today on the day we're recording. I'm going to get one. That's my news.
That's the news.
Yeah,
I don't really keep up with hardware news. I should, but I am too poor for it.
It's just not everyone's thing as well.
That's
like,
true.
Just
yeah.
like raw numbers is just like if you have no frame of context, it just doesn't matter to the most people. But basically, I wanted to get one of the 20 series GPUs because like they have the ray tracing and they're more powerful than what I had, but they were prohibitively expensive and just not worth it to me because I've got a 1080 Ti and that was the best of its generation and it's still pretty good now. Like it's still better than what a lot of people are running. The issue is that my CPU more than anything is actually quite old at this point. Like, and I'm just running into issues with my computer. So like each one of my videos is half an hour long and takes me around 45 minutes to an hour to render. And it's literally just me playing a game. Like there's not like huge edits coming to it or anything. Like, the game of the year, the game of the decade video.
Right. That's like an hour and a half long, right?
Yeah, that's an hour and a half long. It took 13 hours to render.
Yeah.
So if I can get a new computer that won't take that long to render that file, that would be great. So I was planning to build a new computer anyway. I was originally planning to build one last year, but then that would have meant buying a 20 series GPU, and I was like, it's not really worth it because I want to keep this one together as well and just build an entirely new one. And I knew they'd probably be releasing the 3000 series this year, so I waited, and it turns out that was a really good idea because so far the cheapest GPU that they've announced is the 3070, and the 3070 is basically equivalent to a 2080 Ti at a third of the price, close to at least. Like a 2080 Ti is, depending on which version of it you buy, somewhere between £1,000 and £1,200, and this is 500, and it's like equivalent power. Wow. Whereas the 3080 is more powerful, and it just ends up being basically twice as good as what I've got now. That's just how it works, and it just works out really good for me that I waited.
Yeah, I've I've always been interested because all my friends have done computer building stuff, and I've always been the type of person, like there was the Apple announcement earlier this week, and I just couldn't care less about it because I have a phone that works, and I don't need a watch. I don't need a new iPad. I have a laptop that gets the job done for most of the stuff that I want to play. And because so much of the stuff I play now isn't resource heavy. So much of the stuff that I play now is weird stuff. I've been playing like Hypnospace Outlaw recently is one of them.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so I don't have a need for any of that, but it's cool. I still find it cool that people are really into that stuff.
Yeah, like I honestly didn't used to be into it. I only got into I actually got into it at the worst time. I got into computer building after I built my computer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like when I bought my computer, I was one of those people who spent I was like, oh, I want to build a computer, and I bought what I thought was a really good CPU. And to be clear, it is a good CPU, but at the time I bought it, it was already a year old, which means now it's like 6 years old.
Right.
One of the things that really gets me is when I was first planning on building a computer, I was planning to get a 980 Ti just because it was like the most powerful one at the time, basically. And I was one of those people who got so hung up on all of the different models with the like 100 megahertz different clock speeds on each of them.
Right.
And I was like so paranoid, and I was like getting like legitimately upset by like what if like I buy the wrong one. And that comes from not knowing what you're talking about, to be honest. So after, like, in the end, I bought one because it was cheap that day. And I was like, hooray. So I bought it, put it in, and it worked. And basically, as long as you buy the GPU, it will probably work. And that's kind of how it works now. It turns out that what's a hell of a lot more important than clock speeds is whether or not the fans are good on it. So, like, it's the sort of thing where, like, at the time, I was, like, so fixated on this, like, shit that actually means nothing. And now that I'm into building PCs and stuff, it's a lot easier to be, like I've helped a lot of people, like, build their PCs and, like, have, like, talk to them about their issues and stuff. And, like, when you actually know what you're talking about, like, so much of the stuff that feels like it's a big worry are just nothing.
Yeah.
So, like, just being able to, like, be comfortable with, like, all of this stuff is, like, so much better.
Not to segue and pivot too much, but that's kind of how I was for a while when it came to kind of collecting games or having... Because when I was younger, I really wanted to have, like, a big retro game collection. And what I realized was I just really liked playing classic Nintendo games, and also that a lot of old Nintendo games really aren't that great.
Oh, sorry. You've reminded me, one thing that I did do since you were on the podcast last is I actually finished the first Super Mario Bros. It's the first time I've ever done that.
How was that?
You can carry on now.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I have an SNES, I have an NES, but I've stopped playing them recently as much just because, like, I realize I'd rather play the games, and I'm playing games on my Switch online that I have physically on the SNES just because it's easier. And
Yeah.
I realize I don't have to play it on a Super Nintendo controller. In fact, I would rather play certain games on newer control, so there's all sorts of things that like the purest way or any sort of way like that, when it's always just easier to do what's more comfortable or what is more enjoyable or what, do it, learn, and then do what makes the most sense,
Like, I have a SNES and a load of games, and it's on display, but it's not set up or anything. But I've got my SNES Mini next to me, and that's hooked up, and I can just start playing it wherever I feel like it. And that's got a load of games on it. And half the games that are on it I already own. But I also finished the first Star Fox game because I hadn't done that previously before. I've owned it for 15 years.
That one's rough.
It was also, so I didn't know that. I know it's Star Fox 64 over there, but over here it's Lilac Wars. I didn't know that is basically a remake.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that because I played Lilac Wars for years and then had never gone back to Starwing.
It's a much stronger game too.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
Star Fox 64 is so good.
I also think that Star Fox Assault gets a bad rap. I really liked Assault.
Is that the DS one?
No, Assault is the one that came out on the GameCube.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was originally called Star Fox Armada, which I thought was a better name, to be honest, but Assault was pretty good.
Every time. I forget that there was another Star Fox on the GameCube besides the one that Rare did.
Yeah, a lot of people do because it didn't really get talked about, and even when it did get talked about, it didn't do terribly, but it wasn't particularly highly reviewed or anything. But there's literally it's a surprisingly dark story. There's a bit at the end of it where you have to have a dogfight with the reanimated corpse of your father. The game's really dark. Yeah, I know. It's really good. The game is really good, and it's surprisingly dark at times. And I just think it gets a real bad rap. The game, what's he called? He's a member of Starwolf, the monkey ape one who is
I can't think of it.
nephew of Andros. So Star Fox Assault starts with him being killed. The first mission is this alien race come and invade, and they murder him, and that's the start of the game.
His name's Andrew or something. It's something really weirdly you got Star Wolf and Pigma and Andrew. I think it is Andrew.
This game is also the game that introduced us to Panther Caruso. It's really good. I think it's a shame that people don't appreciate it as much as it is because it's actually a really good game.
How do you feel about the Platinum one, for the Wii U? Did you ever play that?
I'm trying to think how much of it I played. I did not play very much of it. I didn't like how it controlled at all.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like the... Yeah. And it's a shame because there was some really interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, I know of it being interesting.
It's just it forces that gyro controls on you, and if it didn't, it would be a perfect Star Fox game.
I actually found it painful to play. The actual gyro ended up hurting my hands, and I ended up just not playing it after a bit, and that's why I stopped because it was physically painful for me to play it, so I had no desire to ever go back to it. I forced myself to play it for a couple of days, and I was just I can't do it anymore.
That's one of the Wii U games that they still haven't re-released on Switch, and if they re-released it with non-gyro controls, I would buy that up. You want to do some news?
Yeah, let's go back to news. You can choose this time.
Okay. I wanted to ask you what you felt about the Mario 3D All-Stars collection.
I am thoroughly disappointed, but I've gotten it anyway. It got announced. I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is a bit expensive. And then I paid for it and ordered it, and it's on its way right now. And then over the last few days, there's been a lot of stuff coming out about how the emulation's great. Immediately, straight off the bat, I was a bit like I'm not like super into it or anything, but I was a bit upset because it's the Shindo version. So there's like no so long Gay Bowser, and there's no backwards long jump. And I was like,
Yeah.
not a big deal, really. Like for me, I mean, it's not a big deal. Like I'm not going to do speedrunning. Honestly, I don't think this game would have been good for the speedrunning community anyway.
Because so many of them already play on original hardware or emulators. It's already established.
Yeah, like usually the rules within the speedrunning community is that any official release is valid and gets its own
category.
Yeah, gets its own category leaderboards.
Yeah,
but I don't think this one would have had a big splash, to be honest, either. Even if it was the original version, just because like people are just like that.
Maybe for Sunshine speedrunners, because it's the first time Sunshine has been re-released.
Honestly, I'm pretty much just buying this for Sunshine. I just really liked Sunshine. Sunshine is my favorite Mario game. I've never finished it. Honestly, I've never finished. I'm trying to think. I think I finished a whole 3 Mario games.
Yeah.
This year, as I mentioned earlier, I finished the original Super Mario Bros. A couple of years ago, I finished what's it on release? Odyssey. I finished Odyssey on release.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as a child, I played a lot of Yoshi's Island.
Yeah.
And I think those are the only 3 Mario games I've ever finished.
So I've only ever finished Odyssey, Galaxy 1, and Super Mario 3, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
There's so many games that I haven't finished. We talked about this last week too.
Yeah.
My desk is set up to where I'm constantly looking at all of the games that I've started and haven't finished while I record this. And some of my favorite games of all time are games that I got to like the very, very end when I was a kid and then just dropped. Like,
yeah,
we talked about this last week. Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door. Got to the final dungeon. Was doing all that when I was a kid. Dropped it and haven't came back to finish it to that extent. I've came back and played up to the Glitz Pit, but
because that is like a great section.
Yeah,
so I can see why you would do
that. That's where I always drop off after that. But it feels like I've finished Paper Mario. It feels like I finished Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IV. But it's in so many RPGs, I get up to the last dungeon, drop it, and then it feels like I finished it.
Yeah.
So I don't, and I've experienced 90% of the game. So I feel like
not the last bit.
Yeah, so I feel like I can still confidently say that it's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
So with the Mario collection, do you think if it included Galaxy 2, would that make it worth the full $60?
I think it'd go a long way to making it feel better, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very expensive. And especially considering a lot of the stuff that's come out about it since.
And it's not a remake in any way. They're all just, it's emulation, right?
Yeah, they're all just like, what is it, like upscaled, and that's about it.
I mean, we got a Crash Bandicoot full remake. Same with Spyro. We got those trilogies. Those were both completely remade from the ground up and cost less than the Mario collection. But I guess name recognition goes a long way. Yeah.
Well, I'm like we said, I'm mostly interested in it for Sunshine, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the changes they've made to it, like, have you seen how they edited the audio for the new controls?
No.
Right. So what they've done is there's a bit at the very start of the game where Flood gives you a tutorial on how to like play the game.
Right.
They literally just cut out the sections where he says the old buttons.
Oh.
They've updated the subtitles, so the subtitles are correct with the new buttons, but they literally just like cut out the, like when he says like press the X button, they've cut out the word X, so he just says press the button. Same with because the GameCube had analog triggers,
right,
and Switch doesn't. It just has the digital triggers. So they've just cut that line out completely, so he just doesn't say anything. Apparently, that is actually something you can still do, though. They've just mapped it to a different button. So I think it was ZR. Because the difference was, right? Did you play Sunshine?
I didn't beat it, but I played the first couple of levels, yeah.
Right, okay. So you could sort of like hold the trigger lightly and it would spray and you could run around.
Right.
Or if you held it all the way down, you'd lock in place and use it. Now, obviously, you can't do that on a Switch. So what they've done instead is they've made it so ZR is locked in place spraying and R is run around spraying. I think that was what they did. But just like a load of little things they've changed, and it's like some of it's nice, like the upscaling's nice, but other bits of it just seem kind of lazy.
Yeah, it seems like when the rumors started stirring about those games being ported to Switch, everyone was really excited for it, and then once the actual announcement happened, everyone's excitement just kind of dropped.
Yeah.
Mine definitely, because one, I realized I could already play these games on consoles that I have. Like I still play my GameCube pretty regularly.
Yeah.
For stuff. So for me, it's not that appealing. But
yeah, like I feel much the same. I was like really hyped for it, and then I bought it, and everything that's come out since I bought it has just made me go, oh, it's not really worth it now. But I've got it now. Like it'll turn up tomorrow. Oh, actually, so speaking of, this podcast is actually going to come out as the final video for my week of Mario. So I'm literally doing all of these games next week. Like at time of recording, next week's videos are all of these 3 games.
Well, that's perfect timing, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's weird. You're going to get to, like, everyone who's going to get to watch me play Mario for 6 days and then hear me talk about how much I was, like, not excited to play it. It's like, probably not the best thing, but whatever, it's
Probably
done now.
Not.
Hopefully, I'm totally wrong and I really enjoyed my time with it. I don't know. We'll find out later.
Do you want to move on to the new consoles?
No.
Okay.
Just because I think we'll talk about those longest.
Right, okay.
So, we could go quickly into Facebook killing the Rift.
Yeah, I saw you put that on the docket, and I wasn't aware of what this is because I don't follow VR news a whole lot.
So
explain this to me. What's the story here?
Facebook had a conference yesterday called Facebook Connect where they announced all the new VR stuff, and they also announced at the same time that there's going to be a new Quest coming out. Quest is the standalone headset.
Right.
So it doesn't require a PC to run. It just runs VR games natively on it. It's got it's some form of Android that it runs off, basically. I'm pretty sure it is, at least. I might be wrong, but I don't think anyone would think ill of me for saying it probably runs on Android.
And the Rift was the one they had been developing for so long. The one, it was the forerunner for a while. I remember in the early when early adopter, it was the key choice. Yeah.
So they have announced with this that they are no longer going to be developing PC only headsets. So the Rift will no longer exist. You won't be able to buy it anymore. And the Quest will now... The Quest already had the ability to plug into a computer and run as well. So it runs PC versions of the game on the headset.
Mm-hmm.
But they have announced that they will no longer be making PC only headsets. To some extent, it makes sense.
I mean, definitely from a sales, there's a certain market that they're wanting to focus on with the Quest. Is that the standalone one?
Yeah, the Quest. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's another thing as well. Actually, is that they've also I think it's a lower price. Yeah. Yeah. It is. I just remembered. They've lowered the price of the headsets as well. So they've announced the new one is the Quest 2. I think it's just called the Quest 2. It's got better screens. Basically, it's they announced it as almost 4K because it's two 2K screens. So they're saying it's 4K. That's not actually how that works.
2 times
4K
2K.
is not. Well, 4K is not 2K and 2K. 4K is 4 times 2K. But whatever. It's two 2K screens, so one on each eye. I assume they've made it run at better frame rates. I don't really care about that, to be honest. Like, I realize I should, but like, wasn't super interested in that aspect of the story, if I'm really honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole like no longer making PC development headsets, like that kind of worries me. Because like, we're just getting to the point where like PC headsets are like interesting, to be honest. Like the stuff with Alex that we were talking about earlier, and now they want to move away from that completely.
Yeah, I mean, you had that kind of early wave of like insert your phone here and cardboard headsets, and Samsung was doing a lot with that kind of stuff, and it feels like they're trying to keep that market going.
Yeah, essentially trying to bridge the gap between the two.
Right.
Which was what the original Quest was for. But it seems now that they've moved from bridging the gap to like
making a different gap.
Well, it's not even a different gap anymore. It's like, well, actually, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, they're now creating this like massive gap, though.
Right. Yeah.
It used to be like the VR on your phone, then the standalone VR, then the PC VR, and now they're trying to like sort of merge the standalone VR with the like lower level by just making it so much cheaper, and then there is now a massive gulf essentially between basic sort of low level standalone VR stuff and the sort of like high level like big people like the expensive VR stuff.
It's the same distinction between like console and PC.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
it's marketing to people who just want to buy the thing and play the game, which is fine. I don't know if this is like intentional on Facebook's part, or it seems like the Oculus, the Rift, had kind of been lagging behind some of the other headsets in terms of use and attention that it had been getting. And I don't know if that's because they've been slowly planning to kill it like they did recently, or if that's just, I don't know which one came first, right?
Yeah. So there has been a lot of focus on the Quest. So the Rift S and the original Quest came out at the same time.
Right. I remember.
And I remember talking to someone in the Discord about this when it happened, because they were talking about getting one. And I was like, well, why would you get a Rift S instead of a Quest? And they were like, oh, it's got a better screen. And I was like, okay. And they were like, and I was like, oh, but that one can run standalone and run on the PC games. So like, surely that's just better. And they were like, oh, well, not maybe, because this one's got its own benefits and stuff. So we just kind of left it at that for a bit. And then over time, they've been doing stuff like, oh, well, we're adding this new feature, but not to the Rift S, only to the Quest. And the Quest has just become this better platform, consistently just like getting bigger and bigger on its own.
Yeah.
And they've just been ignoring the Rift S.
I know in America, they've been marketing it on television, which they haven't been for the Rift.
All right. So I don't know that because I don't watch TV over here anyway, so I couldn't say if they do or don't. But like, yeah, that sort of thing. Like, they drastically seem to have like downplayed the Rift S. Like, maybe I don't see why, but maybe it costs more to make.
I mean, yeah, but it also costs more to buy, right? It's more.
No, it doesn't. That was the thing.
Oh,
they're actually the same price.
Oh,
like now they're
really?
not.
Okay.
Now they're not. But the Rift S and the Quest were actually the same price, which is one of the reasons why I didn't understand why anyone would buy a Rift S over a Quest, because they're the same price and the Quest just has more functionality.
I mean, it's literally just, it is a console versus PC thing, I think, because if you don't have I mean, the Rift S came with that kind of the pretense of owning a PC that could support all that, so
yeah,
that's the kind of difference between them. If you are like going real serious into VR, you would go for that. But I feel like Oculus was the front runner of this kind of stuff for such a long while, and they were the only ones. They were at least the first ones to the market, I believe, with this kind of stuff, and the first ones to put out real test kits and all sorts of stuff. And then they just kind of stopped. I stopped hearing about them for a while. Then the Rift S and the Quest came out, and I heard about it briefly. And
I think
My dad follows a lot more VR news than I do, and so he was telling me we were actually kind of talking about some of this earlier about that fall of that, and he's like, they didn't fall, they just had a while where they weren't marketing stuff, they weren't pushing stuff out until the Quest.
Yeah, I think to some extent there was like before the actual release, there was this big deal about VR. Like when it was only really in the hands of developers and you had to like apply for it and stuff. There was like this big deal about how it was going to be like a massive thing, and then it released and it just didn't become a massive thing.
Yeah.
It was just okay. And like people liked it, and that was about it.
I've heard so many games journalists say, well, VR doesn't really have its killer app yet.
Yeah.
You know, like... And now, is this going to be VR's killer app? Is this going to be, you know...
Yeah, people were saying that about Alex, weren't they? And it did well for the market, sure, but...
Alex is the closest we've got to a killer app so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that gets me most about this is Facebook are essentially now just leaving the top end of the market completely open. Like, granted, the Rift S wasn't the top end of the market, but they had at least something for people who did want to play with their PC in that. And now, like, I'm not, like, discounting all the ones that exist in the middle, like there's HTC doing their stuff still, and then there's the mixed reality headsets that you can get from people. I know they exist, but I don't think I've ever actually seen one personally.
Yeah.
There are things that you can get, but basically now Facebook have just like given up on the PC market and sort of just gone, okay, here, Valve, you can have this. Because like the only other sort of like PC dedicated headset I'm familiar with is the Index.
Yeah, and that's the HTC, right?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like Valve left, so the Vive was Valve and HTC, and then the Index is Valve. Like no HTC involvement. HTC make their own stuff now as well. Like they're still making HTC. I think they're still making Vives. I think there's like a new Vive, but Valve also now make their own Index.
Kind of a Nintendo PlayStation thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like Valve essentially used HTC to gain the sort of knowledge of VR, like on the hardware level,
right?
And then after they made the first one, they just sort of left and made their own one on their own after that. But it just seems, like I say, it just seems weird to me to just completely leave that end of the market totally open when you were not like killing it, but you were doing pretty well there. And then they've just gone, no, we just don't want it anymore. It's like, okay. I guess you just don't get this money now.
VR is a really weird market right now. And I mean, it still is in its infancy. So
yeah,
it's hard to say where it'll be in 10 years, because I don't think, I mean, 10 years ago we were barely seeing the first kind of test kits for the Rift, you know, and we've come a long way since then to the point where
I remember seeing a couple at uni. We had some at uni, and I know some people who did develop on them, but even then it was still pretty novel.
Yeah.
And that was like going on 7 years ago now. Do you want to talk about Nintendo?
Yeah, about the thing today, or just I mean, we've been getting kind of a solid drip feed of things. What about how are you feeling about the Age of Calamity?
I'm excited.
I am too.
The only thing that doesn't excite me is that it comes out literally the day after some really big stuff over here.
Yeah, like Cyberpunk, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So we're going to talk about this a bit after, like probably pretty much straight after we finish talking about Nintendo now. The PS5 comes out on the 19th as well over here.
Oh, wow.
So I bought a load of stuff for the PS5, like spoilers, I pre-ordered a PS5. So I've got Miles Morales, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I will be getting Demon's Souls and Cyberpunk all on the same day.
That's a lot.
And then, I know, and then the day after is Age of Calamity. I'm just like at least, like, in America, you get that week between, because it comes out on the 12th, not the 19th, but here, all of it comes out on the 19th. And it's just that week is going to be like fucking insane for me.
It's going to be a lot,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so I am very excited for Age of Calamity. I really enjoyed Hyrule Warriors. I'm a little bit upset because I actually really liked Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U because my wife and I played it together.
Mm-hmm.
And we used the whole, like, she'd play on the Wii U tablet and I'd use the TV.
Yeah.
And that functionality just doesn't exist anymore, which is a real shame. It's honestly one of the reasons why I never bought the Definitive Edition on the Switch.
Right.
Just because that functionality kind of, it didn't like totally kill my interest in it, but I was like, I've already played most of the game and I now can't play it with anyone else, so I'm going to get less use out of it anyway, so I just never went into it. But besides that, the idea of like actually finding out what happened during the Calamity is pretty interesting too.
Yeah, that's what I'm really interested in. I've been watching a lot of Zeltic videos while I've been in quarantine. And so I think I'm more interested in Age of Calamity for what kind of stuff it's like. I don't even know if I'm necessarily going to buy it, but I'm still very excited for it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Especially since there's so many other games coming out.
I know. It's ridiculous.
And that was a huge problem I had with Breath of the Wild is I enjoyed Breath of the Wild a lot. But the story felt like it had so much cut from it or didn't exist. It felt like they had so much written out, and I mean they did. They had a whole book, right? The Making a Champion that had like this lore, and they did their own kind of Hyrule Historia for that, which I need to find. I have the Hyrule Historia somewhere.
I've got 2 because my wife got me a copy signed by Shigeru Miyamoto.
Oh, that's really cool. I also have a big, thick strategy guide for Breath of the Wild that I haven't looked at in a while. I'm looking at all the hardcover books that I have here. But I'm really excited for this and Breath of the Wild too, because there's a lot of promise in those plots and in those stories that there's a lot of stuff there that I think could be really cool for Zelda that Breath of the Wild just didn't act on.
Yeah. Like, one of my actual main issues with Breath of the Wild was that it didn't feel like a Zelda game to me. It felt like an open world game set in the Zelda universe, if you get the distinction.
Yes. You climbed towers, expanded your map. You did your open world stuff.
Well, and it didn't have the emphasis on the story that we usually get. It didn't have the like explicit dungeons and stuff. Like, it had like the shrines, but they're not really the same. They all look basically the same. The beasts were different enough, but they all like their actual like internal designs were all very similar. So it was basically like you were doing 2 dungeons in lots of pieces the entire way through, and it just. I also wasn't a big fan of the whole quest lines system, like that, having like actual quests in a Zelda game. Like, I understand why they did it, but it's just like
it's for me personally, it was in the middle too much. It felt like they added some RPG elements, added some different things, and I wish they would either double down on that and make it even more unlike Zelda, or make it more traditionally Zelda. And I'm hoping. Personally, and this might be a hot take, I'm hoping that Breath of the Wild 2 doubles down on that and it becomes like, it goes further from that to become more of an action RPG. The fighting develops some more. I would love to play like a character action RPG Zelda game. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, personally, I want like more traditional Zeldas because that's just what I want out of a Zelda. Like, when I sit down to play a Zelda game, I want to go through like 4 to 8 dungeons and do the things in them and then leave and use the power that I got in that dungeon to solve the puzzles for that dungeon and how to get to the next dungeon and like, that sort of shit.
See, I've never had an attachment to 3D Zelda. I've never really enjoyed 3D Zelda that much. I've always, like, I want that, but I want that in the top-down Link to the Past style. And so if we could get some more games like that, I mean, we got the Link's Awakening remake. If we could get some more games like that to fulfill that need for me and then make Breath of the Wild and the main line, the weird experimental Zelda thing, that would be cool with me, because I've never had that attachment to 3D Zelda. I've never really enjoyed 3D Zelda as much as I did the 2D style.
Yeah, I've kind of been the opposite. I've never really had much for the 2D Zeldas, but I've always liked the 3D ones a lot. Like, I liked Minish Cap a lot. Minish Cap was great, but I've never been super big on the 2D ones, whereas the 3D ones were like where I spent most of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ocarina of Time is not the first game I ever played. Like, the first game I ever played was probably Super Mario World, but it is the game that I can... If I had not played Ocarina of Time, I would not be doing any of the things now that I am.
Right.
Like, it was like formative to my life, basically. So, like, they've always meant a lot to me. It's not even like I don't... Like, I did like Breath of the Wild, to be clear. Like, I thought it was, like, fun, and, like, I enjoyed it, but it just, like, wasn't exactly what I wanted. I think, honestly, to some extent, like, say you got a Breath of the Wild style, like, game, but it had dungeons in as well.
Yeah.
Like, if it had, like, clear, actual dungeons, but in an open world, I would be so much more comfortable with that.
I think that's something I would really like out of Breath of the Wild 2. If they could do that and double down on some more action-y, because combat in 3D Zelda has always felt pretty vapid to me.
Yeah, it was very important for its time, but it never really developed much from that.
Oh yeah, Ocarina. That's important to recognize that Z targeting was a huge thing.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, past that, it didn't develop very much. Like, it didn't gain much depth over time.
Right.
Like, the most depth it ever got was probably in Skyward Sword, and no one likes Skyward Sword.
Sword. And I think it got some depth in Breath of the Wild with the dodging, and that was all really fun. I mean, I know this is like the take that everyone has, but man, get platinum in there. Get like, I
just
want
throw platinum at problems. It fixes things.
Except for Star Fox.
Okay, except for Star Fox.
But honestly, I want to see more emphasis on making Breath of the Wild a fun action game on top of... I mean, but you can't do it all, you know what I mean? You can't have a huge open world and have huge cool dungeons and have it be a character things. There's a balance there that has to be struck. So honestly, if like Hyrule Warriors is cool, but I think that would be the project that you should put platinum on, if anything, right? There is an alternate timeline where instead of Koei Tecmo or whoever does the Warriors games, Platinum is doing Age of Calamity, and it's a character action game. And I don't know if that's a better timeline or not, but there is a timeline where that exists.
It'd be interesting to see at the very least, yeah.
Oh yeah, I would be more excited for it, is what I'm trying to say. I think
that's fair enough. Like, it's not going to appeal to like everyone, and like one of the reasons I'm like most interested in it, like I just liked Hyrule Warriors anyway, but one of the reasons I am most interested in it is just because like it's weird that we're probably going to get the most story from this side game. Like, we're going to get more story in Age of Calamity than we did in Breath of the Wild, probably.
In Breath of the Wild 2 as well?
I don't know. It depends if they keep going the same way.
Yeah.
Because, like, I understand why they tell the story the way they do in Breath of the Wild. I just don't think they do it enough.
Yeah.
Like, they tell it in this, like, non-linear fashion because you can technically go wherever you want at any point. Yeah, I get that. But because it's non-linear, it's also, like, completely disconnected from one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it also... There's, like, what, 6? Maybe 7 cutscenes? And then there's the extra 12 if you go out and find them, but, like, you don't have to, and they don't even add anything if you do. Like, I thought... There's a line at the end of Breath of the Wild where, like... spoilers, if you've not finished Breath of the Wild, it's literally a single sentence, though, so it's not going to, like, ruin your game or anything. They say, your memory doesn't mean anything It's your heart that matters. Like some shit like that, yeah?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, what if I get all the memories? So I got all the memories, and I think they had like 2 extra words for the ending, and that's it. It's like, it provides some extra context for the game, but it's like completely arbitrary whether or not you actually do it, and like doesn't change much. Doesn't change enough to have felt worth it, to be honest. And I just feel like it's a shame. Like, there's a lot of stuff I wanted from Breath of the Wild that I didn't get. And I actually finished the game, like the main quest line, and ignored everything else.
Yeah.
And then went back to it a year later and did all of the side content. And I enjoyed that so much more than the main quest line. Because at that point, I wasn't paying attention to the story or anything. I was just experiencing the world. And that was fun. But I think the main quest line, with its like sort of non-linear fashion and it not having the dungeons that I actually wanted, and like the like very little story, it didn't feel worth it to me. It felt like they'd spent so much time working on this open world that they forgot to fill it with an actual interesting game, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like they'd built systems, not a story. And it's like, it's just not what I wanted. I'm hoping that Breath of the Wild 2 will fix a lot of that, because the systems already exist now. So maybe we can get the emphasis on the things I care about.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got Breath of the Wild instead of like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I'm glad that we got something different, and it was really like everyone was really into it because it was just a Zelda game that was different, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of interesting things that it did.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good launch title for the Switch, but we need to see more innovation with Breath of the Wild 2. It can't just be more Breath of the Wild stuff.
Yeah.
Although I wonder, how are they going to really treat an open world? Like, how different can they make that open world as a sequel? You know, how far off in the plot line is it going to be? Are there going to be more towns? Is it going to be the same like landscapes, but it's different now? I'm very curious to see how that's going to work out.
It'd be interesting to see, like, depending on how long after the first game it takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've clearly got Zelda now.
Right.
So if it's immediately afterwards, I don't understand how it could be much different. But say it's like a couple of years later, it could be like more widely populated because they'll have cleared out most of the like moblins and shit.
Right.
And then we've clearly seen this sort of like underground stuff. So perhaps the overworld will be more like well populated with like actual functional towns and stuff, but then you'll have like actual underground dungeons and shit that like have been unearthed through something.
It could be something.
And it'd just be culty. Yeah. Or maybe I'm just completely wrong. But
who knows?
We'll find out at some point. Probably 2026. I've decided it's 2026. How long was it between Breath of the Wild announcement and the game coming out?
What are we counting Breath of the Wild announcement? Because there was like...
the original. Like, it was a long time.
I think they said... didn't they say that Breath of the Wild 2 was coming in 2021? Or 2022?
Probably, but like say they said that Breath of the Wild was supposed to come out in like 2015, and then it actually came out in 2017. So
yeah, but they don't have a new console in development.
Well, to be fair, they didn't have when they started Breath of the Wild either. They just decided to port it over halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Well, actually, there you go. It might come out with whatever that rumored Switch is going to be.
The Switch Pro.
Yeah. There's been rumors of that for years.
I always forget that Breath of the Wild actually did release for the Wii U.
Yeah, I know. Most people do. So the version that you play if you emulate it on PC is usually the Wii U version because it's slightly less demanding. So, speaking of Nintendo, there was a Direct today. They announced some Monster Hunter games.
Yeah. I've never played a Monster Hunter.
Okay. So, I don't know if this would be a good place to start. It really depends. So, I played a lot of World, And I played some of 4 and some of 3. And if Rise is like 3 and 4, I'm not going to be a big fan. So the difference is that 3 and 4 have like segmented areas, essentially. Like you will go into an area to hunt a monster, and then there's zones, and each of the zones you'll have to like, you can search that zone for the monster, and then you zone out of there and into another zone, and there's like loading screens in the middle, and then you like look around there and then to the next one, and that's like the traditional way that the game's worked. Whereas World, it's one contiguous area, and World is just like, I prefer that so much. Like, I know a lot of people prefer how the original ones worked, and that's fair. I disagree, but that's fair. I'm hoping that Rise is more like World in that sort of sense. Like, contiguous areas I would prefer so much. And there's now dogs, though. You can ride a dog now. It's not been dogs before, I don't think.
So, this new one seems to be more... It looked faster than any Monster Hunter. Because I've played the demo for some... I think it was 3, and it felt clunky. It felt slow. And this one looks very kind of character action-y, a little faster than... But I don't know how that compares to World.
Yeah, so the thing with Monster Hunter is that it is kind of clunky and kind of slow, and most of the speed that you will see in those things is just from the animations more than anything. Like, the attacks will look fast, but like you basically can't do anything while you're attacking. So like you'll press the button to attack and then wait like 13 seconds for your animation to play out, and then you can move again. Like, to give you some example as well, like in World I think was the first one where you could drink a potion and move at the same time. Like in all of the other Monster Hunter games, you had to drink a potion, stand still, wait to finish drinking it. There was also a pose you had to do at the end of it, and that was there was like a story justification for the potion makes your muscles tense up and makes you pull this pose at the end of it, and it was just like fucking weird. But like in World, you can drink a potion and run around. They added a lot of like quality of life stuff like that in World, and I want that to carry over. Oh, like here's another example. In the other Monster Hunter games, you can mine for like ores and stuff to make armor from. In the other Monster Hunter games, you would need to carry pickaxes with you, and the pickaxes would break, and then you had to like go and get another pickaxe, and then you could do more. Whereas in World, you just always have a pickaxe, and it always works, and it's fine. Like, there's just a lot of little things like that that are the things that put me off old Monster Hunter that I didn't have issues with in World.
Yeah, I've been thinking about like playing World. I had a couple friends who were really into it, but it's just never been super appealing to me. Because I've always heard like you need a group of people to play it with, and I'm not really much into multiplayer.
Yeah, same.
Games.
Honestly, the first probably 100 hours of World you can do on your own pretty easily. And I realize that sounds like a lot, but it's like a 400 or so hour game. So if you're okay with spending like 20 quid and getting 100 hours of gameplay and then stopping, then yeah, it's probably worth it. It's like fun, and it's pretty easy to pick up, and if you find a weapon you like, you'll just spend your time with that, and that's it. Once you get past that point, though, it becomes progressively more and more important to actually play with other people, and at that point it gets a bit harder. And that's actually what killed the game for me, is that I got to the expansion late, and it was hard for me to find other people to play with, and that made it progressively less and less interesting for me to actually play. Stories, though, which was the other Monster Hunter they announced, that's like a Pokemon.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
It takes place in the same world. Well, universe, not the exact same world, but it plays more like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
I know people are really excited about that. I know it was apparently really popular.
Stories too, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I never played the original, so I'm a bit less interested in picking it up just because that'll bug me otherwise. So there was some other stuff that was announced during this Nintendo thing. There was Fitness Boxing 2 Rhythm and Exercise, if you care about that.
I'm actually really excited for that.
Really?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. I was surprised. And then I wasn't. Disgaea 6? Do you care?
Yeah, I know people care. I know people care about
same.
that.
I know people who care too. I am not one of them.
I might play Disgaea 5 since it's on Game Pass, and I have that, but I've never touched any of them.
No. I'm literally just going down the list at this point until we find something we care about.
Okay.
They showed off some more of Empire of Sin. It's a mob-themed tactical RPG, apparently.
Yeah, that looked really cool. I remember seeing that a while back.
Yeah, I remember the original announcement for it. Like, was it E3 last year, I want to say?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. It looks like a mob-themed tactical RPG. Like, I have very little opinion on this, if I'm being blatantly honest.
Yeah.
Sniper Elite 4 is a game that is already out, but it's now coming to Switch. The Long Dark is also a game that is already out and is now coming to Switch. What the fuck is Balan Wonderworld?
Balan Wonderworld? What?
Yeah, it was apparently in the trailer. I vaguely remember seeing it.
I don't remember seeing it.
I couldn't tell you what it was. It exists. Go look it up, I suppose, if you care. I ain't got a fucking clue. Oh, there was Rune Factory 5. I'm vaguely familiar with that, at least. So that's good if you like dungeon crawling and farming.
Oh, yeah.
I've always been interested in getting a Rune Factory game, but never actually got around to doing it.
Yeah, I've never played any of those kind of games for super long.
Mm-hmm.
I play them, like Stardew Valley, I played for a long time, dropped.
Yeah.
Harvest Moon, I would pick up one, play it for a while, and then I can't come back to those. Same thing with Animal Crossing.
Yeah, no, same. I've not stopped playing Animal Crossing yet. Still played once a day every day since it came out. Just gonna keep it at that forever, probably.
Yeah, I just I can't come back to games like that for whatever reason. Once I stop, it's...
Yeah, no, I think if I stopped, I would never come back. But the fact that I've kept going is what's kept me there. Like, the idea of missing a day now makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's why I don't come back, because I miss I do that for a while, and then I miss a day, and then I'm like, it's over now.
There's Ori and the Will of the Wisps is coming to the Switch.
Yeah, I think we already knew that.
We may well have done. I'm sure you're right.
Or, well, we knew that the because there's two of the Ori games, right?
Yeah.
So I think, is that the first one or the second one?
Will of the Wisps is the second one.
Okay, so I think we knew that. I think the first one was already on the Switch.
Yeah.
So that might be what I was thinking of.
Okay. I didn't like the first one, so I'm not hugely interested.
Yeah, I've heard it's not great.
I know a lot of people really like it, and it's just not for me. Like, it's weird, because people have always said that it controls really well, and I have the exact opposite feeling. I think it controls really poorly. It might be just because I came to it immediately after playing Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight controls so well.
Hollow Knight, yeah.
And the fact that I was doing things and it wasn't working exactly how I expected it to just put me off so much that I just never went back to it. The only other thing that was announced was that Hades has finally come out. So that's cool.
I need to still play that. I haven't checked it out yet, but yeah, I need to. Yeah,
it's on sale right now.
Oh, is it?
It's got 20% off. Yeah, they've got 20% off sale to celebrate the final release of it.
Well, that's pretty good.
I think that's pretty much it for the Nintendo thing. So did you want to go on to the final story?
Yes, let's talk about that.
Okay. So the Series X and the Series S were announced with their prices and release dates. Do you want to get one?
I might get... I've always played PlayStation because I like the exclusives that come on PlayStation, which is still a big factor for me. But
yeah,
I think Xbox definitely has a good chance this generation to kind of pull back some of the losses they had from the Xbox One.
Yeah, I think like it's weird because like I have like no interest now in buying any of the consoles.
Mm-hmm.
When I say any, I mean the Xbox consoles. I don't really care about either of them.
Right.
But like as a brand, I feel like they're more valuable now, like with Game Pass and everything.
Yes.
But it's weird because like to me, Game Pass is what has devalued the consoles. I care less about getting the consoles because Game Pass exists. Because now it's just like, okay, well, I'll just get Game Pass and play on my PC.
Yeah, that's exactly my take as well. Mm-hmm. I got Game Pass recently. There's a lot of games that are on Game Pass PC, or that are not on Game Pass PC, but are on the console. But that's fine. There's a lot of really good games on Game Pass PC. Yeah,
the thing I was waiting for to, like, because I actually still don't have Game Pass, but the thing I was waiting for was when the xCloud finally released. So that I think dropped a few days ago at time of recording, or the beta for it did at least.
Mm-hmm.
So you can now like actually stream your games, and that is like way more interesting to me than actually like downloading games that like I don't own. Like that's always made me uncomfortable because I'm just like, okay, but I want the space on my console or on my PC for games that I own.
Right.
And the idea of like downloading a game that like I know that like I'm paying to play it, but downloading a game and then playing it for like a bit and then it disappearing later on because it's come off the service, and that just bugs me.
Yeah, that is something I was thinking about recently. Like, don't I have these files on my computer? Is there a way I could access them, but there's licenses and things I couldn't run them with.
Yeah.
But it's been I've played a lot of games that I would not have played otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it has the most value to me. But it's still just, I understand why people like Game Pass so much, but it's just not really honestly ever been my sort of thing. Like the idea of trying it with xCloud is good. But
yeah, honestly, the reason I got Game Pass was because I had some friends who really wanted me to play Sea of Thieves with them.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning.
And getting Game Pass seemed like a more cost-effective way to play Sea of Thieves.
That's probably true.
At least for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? I'd do that $1 trial, and then I just ended up enjoying a lot of the other games that I had on it, including Sea of Thieves.
Sorry if you heard that noise.
I did.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I just finished my Soylent.
Do you feel soyed up now?
Yeah, I'm all soyed out. You could say I'm thoroughly soiled.
Let's not say that.
Yeah, one. Like I shouldn't have said that. It's done now. See, this is a thing where it's like if I wanted to, I could now edit that out and no one will ever hear it. What I could do is edit that out and leave this bit in of me saying that I edited it out, so no one will know what I edited out.
You'll never know. None of you.
I don't know which I'm going to choose to do now. It'll be a surprise for everyone.
Yes, it really will be.
Right. Yes, though the Xbox exists. The pricing's nice at the very least.
That's cool. Do they have any good exclusives? What? I don't even remember.
See, that's the thing, is that it also like depends what you count as an exclusive.
Yeah.
There are currently no Series X or S exclusives at all. There are Xbox like console exclusives, but they're also coming to the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah, there's Xbox console exclusives that are coming to the Xbox One as well. And then there's like, I don't know if they call it like Xbox Family or some shit, but there's Xbox games that are also coming to the Xbox One and the Series X and the PC.
Yeah.
But there are no consoles just for the Series no games just for the Series X. And that is another thing that actually like actively puts me off buying a console, because I'm like, there is no reason for me to care about it.
It's weird because I've been playing, we talked about last week, I've been playing Halo a lot. Yeah. I've been playing Halo Wars recently, actually, waiting for ODST to drop. And all of these are games that were like very much Xbox games, and I don't even think of them as being Xbox games because I've bought them through Steam or been playing them on PC.
Yeah.
You know,
Like that's one thing I will say is that I am actually like a really big fan of the fact that a lot of Xbox games are just being released on Steam now.
yeah,
Like that's great.
or PC. I mean, a lot of them,
Yeah.
even some of the Xbox exclusives for a while weren't even coming to the Microsoft store.
Yeah. Like I'm not a big fan of the Microsoft Store, if I'm being blatantly honest. I think it runs pretty poorly. Yeah.
No, I'm not either, but it's nice that those games are coming to PC in whatever form.
As a like pure consumer, I'm like, okay, this is now on a platform I care about. I care about more now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I care about this game more purely because I can get it on the thing I already own. But as someone who is like, I am interested in this console, the fact that there is nothing on it that I want to play means I am no longer interested in the console.
Right. Yeah.
Like the only reason I'm buying a PS5 is because it has games on it I want to play.
Yeah. There's interesting exclusives, and there's interesting.
To some extent, there is a little bit of just I like collecting them.
Yeah.
I have almost every console, so I would just want to get one for the sake of getting one at some point. But at the same time, I'm just like, there's nothing on it I want to play. I'll wait until it's like £100 in like 10 years, and then I'll get it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on the Xbox?
I mean, not really. I had more thoughts on Game Pass than on Xbox for this.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than the PS5, right? To segue in. Oh, yeah. The naming system is bad. I hate it, and it's dumb.
The naming console is fucking stupid.
I want it to go away. Just give me numbers like PlayStation is.
The only thing that I like about it is that the acronym is the sex.
It's the Xbox sex.
That's the only good thing. And it means that now for basically the next 7 or 8 years, every time I make a video, it's going to say sex in it, probably.
Nice.
Yeah, that's about it, though.
Is that better than Xbone Sad, though?
Yeah, the sad was pretty good.
Xbone Sad is pretty funny.
So that's another thing that I am actually a big fan of with the Xbone name, is that the Xbox One X, if you take the first letter of each of the words, it spells Xbox. And I've always been obsessed with that. I think it's amazing.
That is pretty cool. I never thought about that.
Like I know it's like kind of dumb, but I also think it's really cool.
It's so dumb, but it's also kind of cool.
Yeah. And the sad was a good name.
Xbone Sad, yeah.
But now we've got the sex and the says, and it's just confusing. It's just a mess. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. Like, there was that thing, and I don't know if it's actually true, where they said that the reason they called the 360 is because otherwise they would be always one number behind the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And the 360 was a really big number, so it sounded cool.
Right, because they didn't want to be Xbox 2 competing with the PlayStation 3.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which is also why they then gave us the Xbox One, because that will never be called the Xbox One. I don't really
competing
understand.
with the PlayStation 4,
Yeah.
which is 4 times a bigger number than 1.
Being one number behind is wrong, but being 3 numbers behind, that's okay. I forgot how numbers work there, where I thought 4 was 2 past 1, but no, it's not.
That's because you multiply. Yeah,
yes.
Maths is it's fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something we really care about now.
Soylent?
Unless you want to talk about the Xbox some more. No, I'm talking about the PS5.
Yeah, I have a PS5 story. So
why don't you tell it?
So right, so last night, I watched the PS5 event. I streamed it. It was nice. People came. We spoke for the time while it was on. A little bit early in the stream, I was almost accidentally racist, but it didn't happen, so that's okay.
Close call.
Yeah, there was a monster in a game, and it was designed to look like a African tribesman, and I was like, this is kind of racist. And then it wasn't racist, but it was okay. It all worked out in the end. Yeah. So I watched the stream, and Like I was talking, and one thing that's really annoying is that right at the very start of the stream, I predicted the prices and I predicted them right, but my microphone was turned off, so there is no proof that happened. So watch the stream, set it up to upload, and then I spent a bit of time having a look to see if it was up for pre-order anywhere, and it was up for pre-order at one place that I try not to buy stuff from because it's game and they're like ridiculously, like they're just like overpriced and like usually pretty poor service if I'm being honest. So I had a look around and it wasn't up anywhere else at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to sleep, and then I woke up this morning and it sold out the game. It sold out at Amazon. It sold out basically everywhere else I looked, and I was like, great. There is one place that I hadn't checked, and it was because I buy games from there, but I didn't really know if they did hardware. And then I just happened to have a look, and they put out a tweet saying that they were going to get PS5s up at some point. And I was like, cool, I'll look. So I went on the website and I had a look, and they just didn't have anything. And then I just happened to guess what the URL would be for the PS5 pre-order. And it was there. And I was like, all right. Because the website is like, there's the website name / and then the console name and then / and then like console and then / and then like some relevant words. And I just happened to guess what it would be, which meant I got my pre-order in. So I have now spent £615 on a PS3. Nope. No, I didn't. Didn't do that. I spent £650 on a PS5 and 3 games.
A PS3? Wow.
Yeah, I know. I made a picture to commemorate it. Oh, like it was some meme from the PS3 about some guy who bought a PS3.
Is it it's got no games?
No, it was I've got it up.
Oh, I think I did see that in Discord.
Yeah, I just replaced the picture of it with me, and it says, "Hi, I'm Holden Gatsby, and I'm rich enough to buy a PS5 and 3 games. Are you?" And that was it. But I was like pretty happy with getting my order in. Like,
so what games did you get? You got
I got the PS5, just the normal one. I got
Which one is the normal one?
The one with a disc drive.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I got a PS5 with a disc drive. I got a copy of Miles Morales. I got a copy of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I also pre-ordered a copy of Immortals: Phoenix Rising just because I wanted it anyway. And it just worked out cheaper to buy it this way. So it was £615, which is a lot, but it's okay. It's a bit more than I wanted to spend, but I also ordered more stuff than I wanted to order, so it works out in the end.
Yeah. So our PS4 games are going to be a little more expensive. Damn it. PS5 games are going to be a little more expensive, right? They're going to be about $10 more generally.
Yeah, but no.
Oh wait, never mind. You're in the wrong. Dollars is not applicable, but they've been talking about that.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is like they've raised the prices in like every other country, but apparently not here. I'm not really sure why. Like the games that I bought today were the same price they always are. Like there was no difference in price. I was a little bit confused because I was expecting the prices to be higher, like they had said, but it was £45 a game, which is the same as they always cost here. I don't know if it's just where I bought them from or what, but there's been no price change for me at the very least yet. So hopefully it'll stay like that for me.
I don't know if it's every game or if it's just, I know like there was a weird controversy about it, but I mean, what are you gonna do about gamers getting angry?
Yeah,
I mean, who's surprised?
To some extent, like I'm bothered by the fact that they're raising prices, and the reason that it bothers me is because the people who I want to give money to when I buy games is the people who make the games.
Mm-hmm.
I do not give a fuck about Bobby Kotick. I don't care about. This is the sound of me trying to remember the guy who runs EA. I want to say Andrew. I don't fucking know. He looks like a Sith.
Yeah, or Todd Howard, like, or anybody.
The guy who runs EA. Yeah. Well, no, at least Todd Howard actually works on games.
Does he still, though?
At the very least, he's like head of the department now, so I assume he at least has some oversight. I don't care about Patrick. Soderlund. I know he's someone. That might be the guy who runs EA, actually. Fuck it, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about the fucking higher ups. I don't care about the suits. I want to get. I want to pay the guy who like programmed the UI system more. But I don't give a fuck about the guy who sits in the back. Like,
that's not how it works.
What do you mean?
I mean, like the system, like everything. That's not how any of this works.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I want. And like, if that was what I was paying extra for, then I would be okay with it.
Yeah, but that's like, I guess what I'm saying, like, of course that's not what that extra goes to in any situation like that. And that's awful. It really is, because especially with, I mean, there's tons of conversations to be had about crunch and development hell. And have you read Blood, Sweat, and Pixels?
Most of it. I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, I know people don't like, what's his name? The Kotaku guy.
Yeah.
But it's a good book.
Bloomberg now, isn't
he? He does. He works for Bloomberg Gaming or something like that. I don't know if that's true.
It even exists, I'm not sure, but okay.
I mean, if there's Forbes gaming articles, then I wouldn't be that surprised that Bloomberg would try and get in that market. But I can't. Jason something.
Schreier?
Jason Schreier, I think is his name, yeah.
The first thing that came to mind was Voorhees, and I was like, no, that's not right.
I know people don't like him a lot, and there is good reason to not like him, and there is bad reason to not like him.
Yeah.
But it's a really good book. It's a really good book about development hell, crunch, a lot of different things. And you've read it, but obviously for people who haven't, each chapter shows a different game and the struggle that the developers went through developing that game. So one of them was Naughty Dog, which was a really interesting chapter. They had a chapter on Stardew Valley, Witcher 3, Diablo 3. So all of these different challenges in game development and how like corporate top-down kind of stuff affects that, and it's a very good book, regardless of your opinions on Jason Schreier.
I wasn't sure if you were bringing that up for a reason. That's all.
No, I mean,
no, because you started off. Have you read this? So I thought you were going to lead into something, but then it just sort of ended with a recommendation for the book.
It's a good book. Yeah,
it's a good book.
That's all. I mean, that's all. Well, because we were talking about paying more and that money not going to people who are really
like who actually
working
yeah
for the games.
Right, that's it. I was like, I don't get how you can justify raising the prices for a game after you've just laid off like a load of your staff. I don't get how you can justify doing that when you're paying your fucking CEO like 15 million. Like, I don't give a fuck about him getting 15 million. He deserves what? Like, there was a thing about how like happiness kind of like doesn't scale linearly with monetary gains after about £75,000 a year. So give him 75,000 a year. Like, granted, some people will need more, but I think the people who need more than £75,000 a year like are very infrequent at best.
Let me see what £75,000 is.
Oh, sorry, no, I said it wrong and then just carried on with it. It was $75,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's 40k here, but I just said pounds instead of dollars when I meant dollars. Yeah, so you just don't need it.
No.
Like, there is no need for them to be getting that much money. And the fact that they get that much money while people that are working for them like can't afford things that they need to, and then they're like, oh yeah, but actually we're going to charge you more money and still not give it to them, like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's dumb and bad and shouldn't be that way.
So what we're saying is that we should get rid of capitalism?
Yeah, we should collectivize the game industry.
Yeah. There was
actually kind of unironically unionize the game industry.
There was a GDC talk by the Dead Cells developers, because they are actually a collective.
Oh, really? They're like a...
They are a co-op.
That's really cool.
Not an individual business. So they then since split up with one of their original founders, who went off and founded a base, like a sort of more traditional company, because he didn't like the structure of it anymore, because he said that one of the issues is that with it being a co-op in the way it was, everyone was getting paid equally, which is fine. But because everyone had the same amount of control, it was hard to actually get things done. Like they were having trouble like actually making long-term decisions because it was like some people would just disagree and they would vote on it and it wouldn't get clear votes. So decisions wouldn't end up getting made. So there are like benefits to different management structures, but in terms of like payment, no, there's not. Like everyone should get paid the same for the same amount of work.
Right.
That's how that should be.
I think that those, when you're voting on, because I don't know how big the Dead Cells team is, but I imagine something like, I mean, Hollow Knight only had like 4 people work on it.
Yeah, I think 4, and then they had 1 extra who did music and shit.
So I mean, you have that. If you have that small amount of a voting base, I don't know for Dead Cells.
Yeah, I think it's not much more than 17 for Dead Cells, to be honest, though.
Then that structure doesn't quite work the same way it would if you had a much larger number of employees voting on things. In terms of, it's a lot easier to have a split difference when you have less than 20 people, or a split vote. I mean, but that's interesting. You said it was a GDQ or
GDC talk. Yeah, I can try and find it.
Yeah, don't worry about that now.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look at some point though. Do you want to go back to the PS5 stuff though?
Yeah.
Since we just took a tangent on like destroying capitalism for a while.
Yeah, we yeah, let's talk about some games. Yeah. The important stuff.
I know you had the list up, didn't you?
I thought I did. Wow, this list is in like reverse order. Or not, no, It's not even in. It doesn't matter. But yeah, since you went down the Nintendo Xbox list, I'll go down this list.
Sorry. That was my fault. I clicked something in a video, started playing, and I got really freaked out.
So, God of War is back.
Yeah, I was relatively excited for that. I wasn't actually all that big on God of War, to be honest.
I was not either. I felt like it lost its mojo halfway through, and the ending was kind of bland.
Like I liked the ending, but
gameplay-wise, I'm speaking.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah. Sure. It could have done with being about 10 hours shorter, and the game was only like 20 hours long.
Yes.
So
there was a lot of padding in there.
There was a lot. The fact that there was so many times where it's like, oh, are you about to finish the game? No, you're not.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like I liked it, but I think I ended up liking it more after I left and came back, because I started playing the game, and then where did I get up to? Got up to like very early in. Like, I think I got back from Muspelheim and then dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was it. I got up to the bit where you're supposed to go and get Odin's chisel. Was it Odin's chisel? Whatever, the fucking chisel that you end up finding. Yeah, so I dropped it at that point, and then ended up going back this year and playing through the rest of the game, and I actually really liked it then. But yeah, like it definitely overstayed its welcome to some extent.
Yeah, I also felt like that the final boss was not as satisfying as a final boss should be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It felt a bit tonally. It made sense in terms of the story, but it didn't feel like enough.
Oh yeah. So here's a hot take that I have. Western AAA developers don't know how to make boss battles.
Okay.
Like at all. I can't think of like a AAA game, a Western AAA game that I've played recently that has good boss battles. The last one I can think of is maybe Last of Us 1 with the bloater guys.
In the gym.
Boss battles were pretty cool.
I remember there's one in the gym of a high school.
Yes, that one specifically that I was thinking was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like the most recent one I could think of in a AAA. Well, I'll take that back. Ghost of Tsushima looks like it has cool boss battles. I haven't played it.
Yeah, like okay. So
also my brain skipped over that when I was thinking of Western AAA games, just because.
Yeah. Yes, but no. It has good boss battles. Its final boss is kind of lacking. It's a bit of a shame.
Okay.
Like, I won't spoil it, but it doesn't... It wraps up the story, but it is not satisfying, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's got the same sort of issue that God of War did, where it makes sense that it happened, but it didn't really feel like enough.
Right.
Like, it didn't give me the feeling I wanted from the end of the game. Actually, right.
You know what other game has that problem? Like, really bad, I think?
What?
It's Titanfall 2.
Yeah. It's been a while since I played Titanfall 2, but the ending's not amazing.
Oh, Titanfall 2 is so good, but I hate that whole last mission.
I remember the fight with whatever she's called bothered me.
Yeah, it's not
I
great.
think it's literally the final fight, isn't it?
It is. It's the final fight, and then it just kind of ends with the dude. Spoiler alert, I guess, for Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I won't. It ends in a very weirdly flaccid way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I meant to say vapid.
Like, the actual fight does, yeah. I think the story wraps up better.
Yes.
Like, the extra little bit after the end of the story was good. But that's actually what I was going to go back to a second ago, is that I said that Ghost of Tsushima doesn't end great, and I was kind of wrong. There is the final... Oh, it's complicated. There's the final boss fight, and then there's like an epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
The epilogue is amazing.
Okay.
The epilogue is really good. It's not actually an epilogue, though. Not really, because it isn't... You know when I say epilogue, it's not like a mission that takes place after, like, the credits and everything. Like, you can't get the credits until after you've done this mission.
And that's not really an epilogue, right?
I know, but what I mean is it's not... The entire game is about, like, fighting the Mongols, yeah?
Right.
You finish fighting the Mongols, and then there is another mission afterwards.
Okay.
The mission where you finish fighting the Mongols is not particularly satisfying. The mission after that, which is the actual end of the game, that is really good. But when I was thinking final bosses, I'm thinking the fight against the Mongols at the end.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like in JRPGs where you fight the bad guy and then you realize, I mean, maybe not, but in mechanically, it's that same kind of vibe where you fight the big bad guy and then realize there's a bigger bad guy. And so then that original bad guy just feels empty, that, or discredited or whatever.
Yeah, it was mostly just that it was just like mechanically unsatisfying what happens at the end. Yeah. But the actual final section is really good, though. So,
but
I guess I was just wrong.
When I think of, because I was just thinking of like, what are some of my favorite boss battles? And almost all of them are either from smaller Western games or Japanese games.
I'm honestly like just not all that big on boss battles.
Neither are Western developers, I guess.
Like, they're fine. I think one of my issues I've got is that in a lot of games I've been playing recently, like in Control actually, especially,
yeah,
the boss battles are like nothing. And what I mean is that the boss battles tend to be less challenging than normal encounters are. And that bothers me. Like, I've spoken quite openly about not actually being all that big on challenging video games anyway. Like, that's not what I play them for. But I expect my boss battles to be more challenging. And they just aren't. Like, I'm a little bit unclear on bits in Control as to which bits were added in DLCs and which ones weren't. Was all the stuff with mold in base Control?
Mold was a side quest that was in the base game, yes. Unless they did more stuff with mold.
Right, okay, right. So,
I don't know.
The mold creatures, like there's mold creatures and you fight a mold boss.
That was in the base game.
Right, okay, cool. Right, so the mold creatures were surprisingly difficult.
Yeah.
The mold boss, I killed like within seconds and didn't actually realize. Like, the mold boss was so ridiculously easy in comparison to the like fight to get to the mold boss. And I just like didn't realize that I had actually done it because it took so little time. I think I was in the arena for less than a minute. And it was just like, it was like the end of this quest line, and it was like, oh, fight this boss, and it was like, okay, it's done now, bye. That was it. There was a whole one boss that actually gave me issues, and it was a time when you fight an old boss again.
See, boss design is so weird in a lot of cases like that, because it's so easy to either make them really hard or really like easy to push over.
Yeah.
And so finding balanced bosses, like that's something I came across recently in some tabletop stuff. I had a boss of an adventure that they were fighting, and our fighter just ran through him with a sword because he was a wizard, and he rolled the least initiative, and so they just all pounded on him while he was the last in the turn and killed him before he could even get an attack in. And it was a really cool moment for tabletop, but that can easily happen in games, and it feels a lot less satisfying in a video game than in a tabletop game.
Yeah, definitely. Like in a tabletop game, it feels like things just happen to work in your favor, whereas in a like video game, it feels like there was no challenge at all. In a tabletop, it feels like you have overcome.
And arguably in certain strategic games, like if I like in a game like Fire Emblem or something, if I just kind of roll through a boss, it feels better than if I roll through a boss in something like God of War or Devil May Cry.
I think it's about player expectations in that sense.
Right.
Like if you're expecting something to be really difficult and then it isn't, it can go one of two ways. If it's a matter of like, I think in some extent it's about whether or not you get hit, basically. Like that's what it makes me think of. Like if I go into a fight in we'll just go back to Control. If I get into a fight in Control and I get hit by the boss, but I manage to kill it within like a couple of minutes, like seconds, whatever, I'm just like, oh, that wasn't that difficult. That was okay. Whereas in a game like Fire Emblem, like you said, if I manage to like arrange all of my characters to kill this boss before it can touch any of us, it feels like I have done really well.
Right.
It feels like I have managed to beat this thing before it even got a chance to do anything. And it feels like I have also saved myself from potential worse outcome.
Yeah, and that happens in Slay the Spire is another good one recently. Because if you get a really good hand, I've like ripped bosses in two, from really good draws. I've also had that same boss rip me in two on previous runs before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there, that expectation is kind of informed by previous runs and previous experiences, since you're playing these bosses, encountering these characters with that roguelike structure.
Mm-hmm. So this was kind of a tangent about boss fights. What games do you actually care about from the PS5 event?
Speaking of boss fights, you know what'll have pretty cool boss fights, maybe, hopefully, is Final Fantasy XVI.
Yeah, I was surprised how Western it looks.
It's very fantasy-y.
Yeah.
It's the most fantasy Final Fantasy has been since 9.
Yeah.
And 9 was still... I mean...
I'm not, like, super familiar.
Do you think it's going to have airships?
I don't know. I know they usually do. But...
I mean, I have a feeling like they are dedicated to this medieval fantasy style. This might be a Final Fantasy without airships. Yeah,
that's what I was going to get to. Like, it doesn't look like it'd fit the world. But they've still got magic and everything, so maybe.
They got crystals.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. It's Final Fantasy. There's crystals.
Like, I'm not actually like super familiar with Final Fantasy, if I'm being blatantly honest. Like, I own quite a few of them, but the only ones I've actually finished is 15 and then 7 Remake.
Those are two that I dropped pretty early on, actually. I didn't enjoy them very much.
No, I know a lot of people didn't like 15.
So I've played 1 and 7.
Okay.
And then I did that thing that I do with 4, 5, and 6, right? That I was talking about earlier with I get really close to the end, and then I did that with 4, 5, and 6, beat 7, and then I played through the first disc of 9, and then I also did that with Final Fantasy 12, sort of. I did the thing that I do.
I always forget 12 exists.
12 is good. It's pretty. It's very. 12 looks really good for a PS2 game.
Like I know they re-released it, and they really released it on PC and Switch.
And PS4.
And I mean to get it.
And
did they?
I think they re-released it for all of the current generation.
But like, I just every now and again I just forget it exists. Like, I think people forget 11 a lot as well, but that's because it was an MMO.
Well, yeah, because it's kind of dead. Yeah. It's not dead, but there's no official servers up.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, I like in my head, I'm like 1 to 10, then 13. I just skip 11 and 12 whenever I think about it.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because 12 is like a single player MMO, it feels like.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, which is kind of how I've been playing 14 recently, which is why I fell off of 14.
Fair enough.
But let's talk about the actual trailer for Final Fantasy. So I think this is what we saw at that first PS5 thing, because we saw a project from Square Enix. It had a tentative title.
Oh, yeah, Project Athia.
I think this is that.
Yeah, probably.
Something just...
Or at least something very... Like, it uses the same technology at the very least.
Definitely, same kind of engine, but it looks very similar, especially in the trailer when you see the Marlboro. That enemy looks very similar to what was shown in the earlier one.
According to Google, it's not the same thing.
Okay. I don't believe that.
Well,
this was...
Project Athia is apparently supposed to come out in 2023.
Okay, so that's something else. So, yeah, which might be... I mean, this is like the same as Final Fantasy VII. I'm assuming it's going to be like just an upgraded version of that engine, because it looks very similar.
Yeah.
Or Final Fantasy VII Remake, obviously.
Yeah. No, it's going to run on the PS1.
Yeah, it's going to... It's action RPG. It looks more action-y than Final Fantasy 15 was, but you're still teleporting around. And this is I mean, it's weird to say, like, this is probably the announcement that I got the most excited for, barring one that we'll get to later, but I'm excited for that for a very different reason. Just because even though it looks very kind of character action-y, a little more than 7. I know I keep talking about character action this podcast. This is the character action podcast, but
to be fair, that's on purpose. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware, the one of the producers from DMC5 is working on Final Fantasy 16 during the combat.
Dude, he's even got a big Nero hand. I'm looking at the trailer now, and he's got a big dumb Nero hand. So that's what I'm hoping, is that like the combat in 15 felt very lackluster to me. The combat in 7 Remake felt better, but I still didn't feel great about it. So I'm really hoping that this can feel really good.
Yeah, I think there was... One of my only real issues with 7 Remake was that there was like little aspects of it that weren't particularly well explained. But that might just be me, to be honest.
Yeah, but it also looks like there's not like the same kind of party combat. It always looks like it's kind of one-on-one, or at least from what they're showing.
Unless it's like very similar to 15, in which case it's going to be like a group fighting a group a lot of the time.
Yeah, but it doesn't... From this trailer, it doesn't really look like that's going to be the case. But again, this is very tentative. It's got a no release date, I don't think.
I think they said we'll hear more in 2021, but I think that's the only thing.
Yeah, so this is going to be a ways off. Seems like it's a little more, for lack of a better term, edgy.
Yeah, there's definitely that bit where a kid gets covered in blood, so
yeah,
it's pretty edge.
But I think this could be cool because I found 15 Remake to be kind of boring.
It might just be because like 15 is the first one I played all the way through, so like I have better feelings for it. But a lot of people are like really down on it, and I've never particularly got why.
Well, a big part of it for me was I really didn't enjoy the combat.
Yeah,
that was a huge part of it. Like, I watched someone play it after playing through a ways into it and just being completely bored of it, and I was like, I want to care about the story a little bit more than I care about this combat, so I'm just gonna watch a streamer play it.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy 16 looks cool. I'm excited for it. People are saying that it could be in the same world as 15.
I don't really get.
Just like way earlier, because there's like some kind of connection to Arden. I don't really know though.
Oh yeah, there may be, but Arden was like functionally infinite years old, so
right,
it doesn't really matter. Like the entire story of Arden was that he essentially existed for all of time. So
right,
yeah.
So, but it might be within the same continuity, just much earlier, like how 12 and Tactics were.
Well, that's the thing though, is like with how old Arden is meant to be, there is like no reason Arden couldn't have existed in like every single Final Fantasy game. Like I know that they don't like take place in the same world, but you could just say, oh, it's like a million years in the future, and like the world has reshaped itself, and just logic it like that anyway. So
that's what I think this one is going to do, but specifically,
yeah,
215 maybe, because they've been kind of doing that for a while. So, you know, like 12 had Ivalice, which was established with Tactics, and there was a couple other games in that world. You had Fabula Nova Crystallis, which was 13 and onward, which is somehow connected to 15 because it was originally going to be a 13 spinoff, and then it just became 15. It's, oh my god, it's so confusing. I hope I would like to see a remake of some other ones, like to see characters besides Cloud in the Final Fantasy VII crew, because, you know, we've never seen, we've seen Cloud like in a lot of different forms and in a lot of high res, you know, like the most we've ever seen of someone like Locke or Terra or any of those like from Final Fantasy VI has been like just art and maybe in like Dissidia or one of those spinoffs. So I would love to see more.
So what you're saying is you want 10-3?
Yes. No. I want 6-2 is what I want. Okay. I want to see more of some of those classic characters not as sprites. Like I was thinking recently, I would love to watch a Chrono Trigger anime.
That'd be cool.
Or read a Chrono Trigger manga, even if it was like some weird side thing or it wasn't like an adaptation, just to see these characters in a form that isn't SNES sprites. That's kind of what I want. Okay. How are you feeling about Miles Morales?
I'm like reasonably excited. I'm like, I want to get it, obviously, which is why I paid for it. But
yeah, you've already bought it.
But it doesn't look. It's not that it doesn't look interesting. It's not that it doesn't look cool or whatever. It's just that right now I'm not like, wow, this is a PS5 game. I'm like, yeah, this is more Spider-Man.
It feels like a DLC that got too big for its britches and had to become its own game.
Well, it's like it is coming to the PS4 as well.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of launch titles are going to be like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like right now, I'm like, this is cool. I want to get it, but it doesn't feel like the reason I care about a PS5.
Yeah.
Like, I could easily buy this on either, but I'm buying it on the PS5 because I'm getting a PS5 and I want games to play on my PS5.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Same with how I feel about Assassin's Creed, which is like, I bought Assassin's Creed on the PS5 as well. It's like, could have just got that on the PS4, but
yeah,
like, I'm getting a PS5, I might as well get it on the PS5.
I think it's cool that Miles seems like he plays differently. I heard someone say that he's kind of the Nero to Peter Parker's Dante.
It was nice to see that he has his invisibility.
Yeah, he's faster, but he's a little less versatile, is what it seems like.
Like, I'm not super familiar with Miles, but the electricity is a him thing as well, isn't it?
Yes, that's something that is like that's not like a gadget. That's something that's inherent in his spider.
My experience with Miles is essentially just the film.
Right.
Like, I'm like the film and the game and like little bits I've picked up from other places, but I don't read comics.
I don't either, really.
I'm only familiar with Peter Parker because like there was the cartoon. There was the cartoon, and then bits I've picked up over time because like I never even particularly watched the films or anything. Like I didn't get into Marvel till the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like it's just never really my thing.
I'll take that back. I do read comics. I don't read a lot of superhero stuff. I like reading. I could talk about comics for a while, but there's a lot of really good Western comics that aren't superhero stuff. How about Hogwarts Legacy?
I think we might be looking at the same page. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, it's fine.
Harry Potter's never really been my thing. J.K. Rowling's a turf. What do you want me to say?
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to buy it because I don't want to support her, but...
Yeah, I feel bad for the developers for making a game that, like, some people are not going to buy purely because the person who wrote the original stuff is a turf. But I guess it comes sometimes. They'll probably still make enough money for it to not matter to them anyway. It's one of the avalanches.
I was talking about this on my stream the other day when the announcement came. It looks cool. I'm not interested in it, but this is what I want with licensed projects. Put me in the world and get me away from the heroes of whatever the original source material is.
Yeah, like a lot of the more interesting stuff in like the sort of world is, I can't think of a way of wording it. Like a lot of times when you're reading shit, like I'm more interested in how the rest of the world works than I am in like what is it specifically going on. And like this sort of is a chance to explore all that. So that's cool, at least.
Totally.
I said previously actually that I would buy it if there is a shit button. Because wait, that's one thing I do want to know. I want to know how much of this takes from the extended universe from J.K. Rowling's tweets. So, like, how much of it is you can magic away your shit?
Well, you can do that in Lego Harry Potter if you're riding the unicorn. You can make it shit.
Great.
Studs. So that already exists.
That's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, it literally. I think that's been a thing in a lot of the Lego games actually that you can get.
Fair enough. Just make characters shit themselves. I hope it's a thing in Lego Indiana Jones.
It's only when you're riding a horse, though.
Oh, okay.
You make the horse, yeah. But I think you can disappear it in the Harry Potter one. Because that's what you... I mean, that's like what you want to do, right? You don't want to just shit. You want to shit and then disappear it.
I want to know how that fucking works, though. I don't get it. Like, we had a really long conversation in the Discord about this earlier, about how the mechanics of, like, magicking away your shit works. Why do they have toilets if they don't use the toilets? And what I mean is that, like, they said that...
I thought we said we were doing no more tangents.
I said we were cancelling the main topic. Not that we couldn't have tangents.
Okay.
There's the bit, right? So she comes out and says, oh yeah, so wizards could magic away their shit. They just shit where they stood and magic it away. And you're like, right, what the fuck? But then we also know that they installed and built toilets in Hogwarts when it was founded, because that's where the Chamber of Secrets exists. So Salazar installed the Chamber of Secrets and made the secret to get into it the fucking toilet. Yeah? Why would they have installed toilets if none of them used toilets?
So here's my theory, right? I think for that to work, it would have to be the stipulation would have to be that the only way you can magic it away is if you did it before it came out of you and it was really painful.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was a better option to install toilets because it would be less painful.
Okay. I think I prefer the idea that you can shit wherever you are and magic it away. but it has to have a place to go. So they just built toilets and systems. Like, they built an entire working sewage system, and the entire thing was you took a shit wherever you were stood and then magicked it into the toilet and then just remotely flushed the toilet.
It probably takes less effort to, like, cast a spell than it does to just go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Or it takes more effort to cast a spell, rather, than to just go to the bathroom.
I suppose it depends where you are.
I guess so.
And also, like, it means you, like, don't have to ever get up.
Yeah, but
like, if you just, like what if you, like, feel really ill and you're in bed and you just don't get up?
Sure, but then you have to, like, bring attention to it, right?
Well, it depends how quietly you can cast spells.
Yeah, but also then you have, like, I mean, why? I don't like the. This is. Where was the poop before? What was? Is there a poop dimension?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, where did it go?
Is there, like, or is it erased from existence?
Like,
or it has to go somewhere,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You can't just destroy matter.
Like
magic doesn't work that well.
Well, we don't know that. Maybe, right? Maybe they magic away the shit, right? And they convert it to, like, energy, like pure energy, and the pure energy of the shit is what powers the spells.
So you're proposing that the wizarding world of Harry Potter is completely shit based.
Yeah. Like wizards actually truly don't have any power that normal people don't. It's just that they fully understand how to utilize all of their shit.
But then how did they get the original magic energy to magic away the first shit?
Well, no, one guy just had a shit one day and like did something magic by chance, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And then he just, like, every time he took a shit, like, I don't know, like, poked it with a stick or some shit until it started working.
Right, it was a wand that chose him.
Yeah.
Right? And he okay.
And then, like, you just happen to be able to teach other people how to control their shit powers.
Over years, yeah, okay.
And then eventually we got this whole, like, and it's actually like a choice for them. Like, it's not actually that some people are born with the powers and some people aren't. It's just that, like, they're really picky who they care about. So they just, like, send letters out at random, but not to everyone, because it's like an exclusive club of shit controllers.
This really ruins the term mudblood.
Yeah, it's kind of
in Harry Potter when there's.
Well, it's weird though, because if you think about it, the mudbloods are actually the purer ones, because they're the ones who aren't, like, don't have the shit.
It's true.
They have, like, less shit than the ones who have shit. So they have cleaner blood. But they have, like, less shit in their blood.
I've got to send this to my dad.
They have less bloody shits.
Resident Evil 8 Village.
I'm glad you did that, because I was about to do the same. There's reason now for me to play Resident Evil 7, I suppose.
So you can play Resident Evil 8.
Yeah, I haven't played 7 yet.
It's free on Game Pass.
Oh, okay. Actually, speaking of, Game Pass is currently free for 3 months if you have Discord Nitro. So,
I don't.
Yeah, I might just get a month of Discord Nitro because it comes with 3 months of Game Pass. And it's the PC Game Pass. So, that's just good.
I had no idea what this trailer was at first, because it came right after Black Ops.
Yeah, it did come quite immediately.
And then I saw the dudes with the guns in the masks, and I'm like, it's another shooter, man.
Yeah, for the first, literally until he said Chris, I was like, I have no idea what this is.
I forgot about Chris.
Right.
Anyway, it wasn't until the Capcom logo showed up.
Right, because I just remember how weird the Chris design was when we saw the trailer for 8 in the first place.
And he shoots her in the head.
Yeah, well, he doesn't look anything like Chris. Yeah, so he said Chris, and that was when I realized. But I know a couple of, like, I know I was streaming it, like I said, and I know the some of the other people I was I say some of the other people. It was only fucking two of you, and you know who you are if you're listening to this.
I only had two people in my stream too. It's okay.
It's okay. Two's good for me.
Two is good. Yeah.
Like, I am surprised when I get more than one. When I say one, I mean if I'm watching my own stream, I'm like, okay. If that number goes up to 2, I'm like, oh, this is a good day. And then last night it went at maximum up to 5, and I was like, wow, that was like real good for me. One guy came. It was really weird, right? One guy came, said hello. I said hello to him. He said, "Don't worry, I'm used to being ignored." And I was like, "Oh, it's all right. I get ignored, and I'm the one streaming." And then he just left. And I was like, "Okay, this was like a fun interaction. Bye." Yeah. Anyway, so I know one of the people that I was streaming with, like, they didn't realize what I was until after the Capcom logo, like you said, either.
So what do you think about it? How you feeling?
I feel a bit weird, but I suppose like 7 was very different than the other Resident Evil games.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it's not really a big deal, but I think the whole going into werewolves thing is just a bit strange.
Is there werewolves?
Yeah, there's.
Did I miss something?
I think it was in the original trailer.
Oh, it was in the first. Okay, I think there was something. I mean, is it really that weird in a series where we fought a giant statue of a small child man?
I mean, like, at least that was like a robot.
Along with at this point, is there really?
It's honestly just that all of the other stuff in the games so far has been like at least mostly explainable by, oh, it's just some form of disease bioterrorism thing.
It's a bioweapon. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like it's a bioweapon vampire and it's a bioweapon werewolf don't work as well. Like, actually, no, bioweapon vampire would probably work. But
bioweapon vampire totally works because you get like Metal Gear Solid, you get Vamp.
Yeah. But bioweapon,
that's what that is.
Werewolf. I think that's just like, it's not like I'm gonna like hate the game because it's got a fucking werewolf in it. But bioweapon werewolf is just like a step too far in terms of like, this is a biological like organism thing.
If a liquor from RE2 had hair, wouldn't it look like a werewolf?
Yeah, it would, but there'd be no transformation. I think it's the fact that they do the transformation. That's what gets me.
Okay. See, I'm completely misremembering what is in that first trailer.
I mean, maybe I'm overplaying what's in the first trailer.
Is there a werewolf transformation in that first trailer?
Sure, there's a fucking werewolf in the trailer.
I'm looking this up.
RE8 werewolves. Literally, like, it auto-completes. RE8 isn't the first time werewolves have been in Resident Evil.
Well.
Thanks, Screen Rant. Yeah, no, like, there is, like, an explicit massive shot of a fucking werewolf. It looks kind of like an El Gigante, but with hair, though.
Maybe.
So, maybe it isn't... Maybe it's not a werewolf. Well, fuck off. It's a fucking comic. That doesn't count. Sorry, there's apparently a Resident Evil comic where there's werewolves.
Dude, have you never read the novelizations where there's...
No, I've not. I can't say I haven't.
I haven't either.
Let me read this tagline to you. Okay. Resident Evil 8 has werewolves, but it's not the first time the series has used the creature. That honor belongs to an obscure comic from the 1990s. Fuck off.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Oh, yeah, those were the Marvel Resident Evil comics.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's not really fair. Like, I don't feel it's fair to be like, oh, well, Resident Evils have always existed in werewolves. Yeah. Werewolves have always existed in Resident Evil. And it's like, no, they haven't.
But this is totally going to be like the Resident Evil 4 of the new Resident Evil, right? You go to the weird location.
Yeah.
You got to, it seems like there's going to be saving somebody involved. You get the cult going on.
Yeah, it's at 2:08 in the original trailer for anyone who cares, where the werewolf comes on screen. But yeah, like,
I mean,
it looks good. Like, I'll probably get it. I'll have to play 7 in the meantime. But honestly, like, the only Resident Evil games I've ever really played has been 4, and then the 2 remakes. So that's what I've enjoyed so far.
Mm-hmm.
So just 7 being first person, like, didn't really interest me all that much.
I haven't even played the remake of 3.
I really liked it.
Or by 2 remakes, do you mean...
Remake 2 and Remake 3,
okay,
yeah.
Not Remake 1.
Was it called Remake, or did everyone just call it
That's
Remake?
where that started.
I know that's what it's called, but what I mean is it like on Steam?
Oh, I mean, I have the GameCube version here, and it just says Resident Evil.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, whereas on like 2 and 3, it literally is Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Do they call it remake? Do they capitalize the RE though in the official title?
I don't think so.
Okay, because that would be dumb.
I know, but it'd be great.
It would be. That's what you want in Resident Evil.
Wow, I'm like totally wrong.
Oh, do they? They do capitalize it?
No, it's not even called remake.
Oh, it's just called Resident Evil 2?
Yeah, it's just called Resident Evil 2. So I've just been totally wrong the entire time. So fuck me, I guess.
Everyone just calls it remake or remake. Or...
Oh well, whatever. Not a big deal. Yeah, like I'll play 7 and I'll play 8. And then hopefully I'll like it.
Yeah,
I did try going back to 5 at one point. I really didn't like it.
This trailer was weird. Because there's like the weird like Coraline looking
Yeah, I was like kind of like not off-put, but I was kind of thrown by that.
That was weird. And then you also get the scenes with where you're like in the house and you're like looking over the shoulder of this lady.
Yeah, we think at least that's Mia.
Yeah, but that's very like Silent Hill to me.
Okay,
like especially the first shot they show of her where she's like in the chair and she says some spooky line. Like that really makes me feel like Silent Hill and kind of James' interaction with women in that way. I don't know. I found this trailer to be very interesting stylistically. It looks like there's a new merchant.
Yeah, it's Winston Churchill. I said that on my stream.
I said
it literally just looks like Winston Churchill.
It really is. Time to starve India.
Like, I like that everyone's like, oh, Winston Churchill's really good and he like won the Second World War, and it was like, yeah, he also tried to like use a lot of chemical weapons on people in like Saudi Arabia.
Did he win? Does anyone really win wars? But regardless.
I think if there has ever been a time when someone has won a war, it's probably World War II.
Yeah.
I think it's... I understand the point you're making, but I think if there's ever been a time when a war has been worth fighting, it was probably World War II.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's that's a good point.
Yeah.
Fascism is a good reason to fight against.
Plus the whole genocide. Good thing to stop that.
Yeah.
Like, hot take, please don't commit genocide.
Yeah, that's not really a good thing.
No.
We did my country did like nuke a bunch of people.
Yeah, your treatment of the Japanese during World War II wasn't great either, but I feel like people don't talk about the American internment camps as much. But,
that too? But
yeah, video games.
Video games.
Yeah. This podcast has been literally all over the fucking place.
It sure has.
Like, for people who, like, I've like, heard my new intro, and I'm explicitly explaining what happened here. This podcast was supposed to be about something completely different, and we then spent so long talking about the news that it just became the news. We then had a massive conversation about Harry Potter taking a shit, and now we're talking about don't commit genocide.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Back to video games.
Yeah. Speaking of...
Black Ops.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh god, okay.
It looked cool. I'm gonna be honest. That gameplay trailer looked cool. I wish it wasn't in a game series that platformed an actual fascist.
Yeah, I was. So I'm gonna keep bringing this up. I was on stream while I was watching this, and I was like, "Is this the quickest time between mission start and war crime?" Because, like, the mission starts, and then about 5 seconds later, a guy pulls like a wounded soldier out of the car and stabs him in the chest. And I'm like, that's a war crime. The speed with which we got there was just like amazing to me. And then there's that bit where they do like actual quick scoping in the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe you would have hit your target if you'd spent more than 3 seconds aiming. And then we get this fucking like weird ass chase. And I was like, at this point, I just started giggling to myself because I just couldn't take it seriously. Like, granted, it's Call of Duty. You're not supposed to take it seriously, but I could not deal with this.
But there's certain like, it could be interesting. I just wish it wasn't in the most jingoistic series in video games.
Like, I get a Call of Duty every now and again so that I can play a game where I don't think.
Every time I think about playing Call of Duty, I go and play Titanfall 2 again.
Okay, fair enough. I also have a thing where I just like, I play the campaigns and I'm like, yeah, this is a game where I shoot things, and that is like it. And then like I don't touch it ever again. And I tend to buy them a year out. So like now that Blop's Cold War's coming out, I'll probably pick up Modern Warfare, and then I'll do the same next year with this.
And then you can blame the war crimes that America did on Russia.
Yeah, that's fine. Like no one's gonna like ask the Russians if they did it.
They didn't. It was us.
No, but no one's gonna check.
Well, it's fiction. It's fiction, right?
You can't just Google these things. You can't just look things up. That's like, honestly though, that's most of what Japan seems to believe. You can't just Google World War II. That's just not possible. Which is why you can't admit that Japan committed war crimes in World War II. That's just not a thing. Like Unit 731 did not exist.
But
no, it didn't happen. It just didn't.
I was about to say, like, but doesn't everyone do war crimes? And then I realized how awful of a statement that was, and that it actually is kind of a true statement.
Yeah, I almost committed war crimes once. Depends what you classify as a war crime, but like the whole thing about, they made a big point about not using red crosses in games because it's technically a symbol reserved for war.
Oh yeah, but that's not. I thought that was more like actual copyright of the Red Cross.
It's the closest, hopefully. I say hopefully, like I don't have any agency of my own life. It's the closest I'll ever get to committing a war crime, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, also remember that war crimes aren't war crimes if committed while not in war.
Also, war crimes aren't war crimes if you're the one who wins.
True, but they're also not war crimes as in, so like using chemical weaponry, you can do it if you're not at war and you're against your own people. That's a war crime that's allowed.
It's not a war crime. It's just a regular crime. See, no one can arrest you for regular crimes, except if you're like black or poor or any other form of minority. Video games.
Welcome to our gamer proletariat podcast.
I got this thing right. So like I have consciously made an effort to not make any explicit political statements in my videos, not because I don't believe these things, but just because it's just
you just want gamer time.
Yeah, I just want to like, oh look, this game's cool, and now I'm like, fuck the police. Like,
honestly, I'm with Black Ops. I'm like, can we not bring politics into gaming, but like for real this time, and not just about having minority characters?
Get rid of politics in games. But if we get rid of politics in games, we basically get rid of games. So,
yeah.
I kind of like games most of the time.
I like games too. I don't like it when games promote actual people who are actual fascists. Like that first trailer for COD Blops Cold War. That dude is like a weird conspiracy theorist dude. That they're promoting as like, it's so weird. It's so,
yeah, but it makes money though.
Yeah, jingoism sells, dude.
Yeah, it makes money, so it's okay.
Jingoism sells hotcakes. It sells crazy.
You know what else sells crazy?
Devil May Cry 5.
Soulstorm. Fuck. We went different places with this. Let's meet in the middle. Let's meet in the middle.
Devil May Soulstorm.
Fuck.
Oh.
Let's choose another one. Fortnite. There we go. We can all agree that Fortnite is a thing that exists.
And sells hotcakes.
Yeah, it does. Not on the iOS.
No.
Oh, God. I'm literally just telling people what happened on my stream. Just go watch my fucking stream. It was good.
Go watch the streams, yeah.
Yeah. No, like, so Fortnite came on screen. And I was like, oh, is this Immortals Phoenix Rising? Because I just saw the world. And then Fortnite came on screen and everyone in the stream started laughing. I realize that is, again, now 3 people, but it was funny. We laughed. That's about all I've got to say on Fortnite. Do you care about Fortnite?
I do not.
Good. Okay. Five Nights at Freddy's was another game that exists, and I was thoroughly scared by that jump scare at the end. It really got me.
This one is going to be like free roam, like it's going to be like a Layers of Fear or one of those kind of horror games, which could be cool. Could be really
Yeah,
cool.
at the very least, they're going somewhere new with this, which is interesting. But I still don't care. It's just not for me. It's just not my sort of thing. Like, I have this thing with horror games where, like, I don't like horror games, and then I play a horror game and I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't react enough to be bothered by most games, but I have this, like, thing where I'm more scared at the idea of being scared. So I've very rarely ever been scared by a thing, but when I think about being scared by it, I get scared by it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of horror games either, except for one of my favorite games of all time is Faith.
Okay.
Because like Faith 1 and 2, basically, because they're both free, I think.
Yeah.
As a whole, like the Faith series is really fun. And I'm a huge fan of weird indie horror games.
Yeah.
So like there's been the Dread X collections recently.
Mm-hmm.
There was that haunted PS1 demo disc that was really cool. I messed around with that. That kind of stuff is stuff I really enjoy. Something like Soma or Layers of Fear isn't my thing, really.
No, I made a horror game last year. That was fun. That's all I've got to say on horror games, to be honest. Like, I made a horror game because I had a dream about it, so I made it.
That's a good reason to make things.
Yeah.
Speaking of scary things, you know what's scary? Demons. Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah. Okay.
We can't get on the same page, can we?
You know what is scary? The fact that the special edition isn't coming to PC. Apparently, PC is getting Virgil, but not getting any of the other special edition stuff.
Now you made me not hype.
Yeah, I know. It's sad.
This was the most hype I got this whole PlayStation thing.
I was like pretty excited.
I saw that Capcom logo at first and I heard Virgil's voice and my dumbass said, "Is this the Resident Evil 4 remake?" And then I saw Nero and I'm like, "Oh wait, yeah, okay, fine. Good." I was literally expecting them to go from Resident Evil 8 to Resident Evil 4 remake for whatever reason.
That's half the number.
Yeah. No, but this is cool. Virgil's cool. It looks cool. He's got a cool song.
I would care more if it was coming to PC. There we go. That's basically it. Like, I do care. Like, I want to play it. But the fact that it's not going to PC kind of, like, the special edition stuff isn't coming to PC kind of puts me off. Like, when the PC version doesn't get, I don't know for sure off the top of my head what it was, but there's 2 gameplay modes and ray tracing that it doesn't get.
That's rough.
Like, we will get Virgil, but you have to pay for it, which is fine. It's not a big deal. But it's the other stuff that, like, it's the fact when there's fucking, like, a clear, explicitly better version of a game that no one else gets to play because it's not on their platform. That just bothers me. Like, I have, like, to be clear, I don't mean, like, game exclusives. Like Demon's Souls, we're going to get to in a bit. Like, that is a Sony game that stays on the Sony console. Okay.
Right. That's different than having the game be on all consoles, but like one platform gets a feature or a mode that is different. Yeah,
exactly. Like, the example that I've used previously is Dragon Quest XI. The Switch version of Dragon Quest XI is just explicitly a better version of the game.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's got better music. It's got the mode where you can switch between the 2D and the 3D. It's got extra story content, and it just never.
Wait, have they not re-released that for other platforms?
Nope, can't do it. It's only on the Switch.
Are you serious?
Yep, and it also came out about a month after I bought the PS4 version for my wife.
That's not cool.
So I'm just like, in this position now where it's like, okay, great, gotta buy 2 copies if I actually want to play the game properly now. But anyway, I just release the fucking game on PC. It's not fucking complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna play it on Game Pass because 11 is on Game Pass, but if that's true, then because that's the version that has like the bad MIDI version of the music.
Because it has better versions of the MIDIs and a full orchestral soundtrack as well, I think.
And you can switch between them.
Yeah. But as for Devil May Cry, it was great. I will play more of it with Virgil. That's about it, to be honest. Put the extra shit on the PC, please. It was cool. I reviewed it on my Game of the Year 2019 list. Deathloop exists.
Yep.
I still don't honestly understand it. It's the fact that there's 2 players. Like, I don't get how the 2-player thing works. That's
I
all.
think it's gonna be like kind of Dark Souls Invasion
Yeah, actually, that would make sense.
style. That's what I've assumed, is that it's gonna be kind of that sort of way.
Yeah, but then if there's not enough people, then that'll get really boring. Not boring, but more like some people are just gonna have a really easy time of it, is what I'm getting at.
I played through Bloodborne totally without using help or getting any of that. I mean, you can play like the Souls games are built to where that can be optional.
Oh well, yeah, no, but that's what I mean. Like, so this is an optional section. This is a optional system you can engage with, right? Whereas if the stuff in Deathloop is an invasion, like you said, unless you have like the NPC version of the invasion as well, in which case it's probably not going to be as interesting as an actual real person, then that feels like an entire section of the game that just gets locked away behind this.
Yeah, so it would be like if instead of just a regular invasion, it would be like one of the bosses was an invasion.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it though, because like she kind of is, isn't she? Like she is a roaming boss.
Yeah, I think so.
Like essentially, so like it would be cool if that was an invasion, but if that is an invasion, but there aren't enough people playing as her, then the people playing as him are going to have like a way easier time of it, either because they don't get invaded at all, or they just get an NPC version of the invasion that isn't as hard. It feels like some people are going to lose out either way, is what I'm getting at, I suppose.
Yeah, it just looks like I made a joke in my stream. Also, go watch my streams.
Yeah, go watch their streams too.
I made a joke that at this point, whatever we call the BioShock developer diaspora is its own genre.
Yeah.
Right? Like Prey, Dishonored, all of those.
Well, to be fair, Prey, Dishonored, and this are all made by the same people.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're all Arcane.
Yeah, but there's other games that I can't think. Like there's that. I guess that is just Arcane style more than its own genre. But this definitely feels like a from former BioShock developer game.
Yeah. Right. Oh, we did God of War already, didn't we? It's been so long, I honestly forgot.
Yeah. Demon Souls?
Yeah, so the entire point is that every time you said Demon Souls, I've tried to steer away because I've been trying to leave it till last.
Okay.
That's all. But then I kept thinking we hadn't done God of War yet, so I was going to do that again, but we already did it. It's just been like an hour.
Yeah, I was wondering, like... Because I forgot about Deathloop, too, which is why I said...
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that one.
Oh, no. I'm totally wrong. We didn't do Oddworld Soulstorm. We just made a joke about it.
We just made a joke about it. Do you care about Oddworld Soulstorm?
No.
I don't either.
Okay. I feel bad for it now that I don't.
I know there's people who do.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make too.
I never played any of them, so it's...
Nor did I.
I have nothing to say about it.
I know some people really like it. I am not one of them. I hope it's good for you if you do like it.
Warner Brothers reassures fans that J.K. Rowling isn't directly involved with new Harry Potter game.
That's good.
That's good.
It's good.
She's still going to get royalties.
Yeah, I know. And she'll give all the royalties to... She'll use her royalties to fund her new book about a guy who cross-dresses and kills women. It's not even a lie. She's just written a book about a guy who cross-dresses and kills women.
I hate it.
I know. Like, I am not super personally involved in that purely because I stopped caring about Harry Potter quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like an interesting part of my childhood, but it wasn't like formative or anything. It was just like a thing that happened. Whereas other people who've like built an entire like personality around liking Harry Potter, and then to find out that the woman who wrote it's massive fucking turf, like it can't be a fun time.
Yeah.
Like the point I'm making is that I get to just go, she's fucking turf, I don't care, and hate her from a distance.
Uh-huh.
Whereas the people who are like wrapped up in the whole world around it as well, like there's the whole I hate this woman now, and the disappointment of losing the thing you care about. One thing I will say about Oddworld is that the guy who's like in charge of making it has nice hair.
He's a very handsome man.
Yeah. He's not really my type, but he is.
Did he voice that guy that was in the beginning cutscene too?
Yeah.
Okay. I was almost sure.
What little I know about it is that I think he was like, did designer, or he might even have just been a voice actor or something. Or he might have like set up the entire world. Like I'm talking like I have really basic knowledge of this, but
But he's been involved with it from early on.
Since the start, yeah. But he was also like really big proponent of getting more of this, is what I'm getting at. Like he set up his entire own studio just to make these. So yeah, it's cool at least that it's getting to be made.
Yeah. I know a lot of people really like that series.
Yeah. It's just not my thing. Like it looks cool, but it feels like it plays off a lot of like nostalgia for the old games, and I don't have any of that, so I've not been particularly interested in it.
Yeah.
Demon Souls.
Demon Souls.
Do you care about Demon Souls?
I've never played Demon Souls.
Neither have I.
So I'm interested in picking this up, actually. I'm very interested in picking this up.
I do own Demon Souls.
I do too.
I just never played it.
I have played the opening through the Capra Demon, and then I died to it.
Capra Demon?
Is Capra Demon Dark Souls 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever
the Demon Souls is Vanguard.
Yeah, whatever the big boy that you fight.
Yeah. Vanguard's one of the bosses. Fucking hell. Whatever. Yeah, I know what you mean at the very least.
Yeah, whatever the big boy is.
Yeah.
And I got to that point. I died, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then I got to the hub world, and then I fell off and died. And my health bar shriveled to even more of a piece of tiny beef jerky than it was before. And I ejected the game from my PS3, and I was like, I'll come back to this later, and I never did.
Yeah, so I watched my wife play it, because like by the time I started caring about it, I had finished Dark Souls 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't go back.
Right.
I watched my wife play the first bit. She got to the Nexus and then couldn't work out how to leave the Nexus. And that was the end. That was the last time she played it.
Yeah, that's about how my experience was.
Yeah. I've watched other people play it. But yeah, I just never got around to it myself. Honestly, one of the main reasons that put me off is the world tendency stuff. Like that stuff like makes me so uncomfortable as a player that it put me off playing at all. Like I was trying to like understand how to manipulate the world tendency to work in the best way for me to not miss things, basically. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, I just like sucked all of the enjoyment out of the game for me. Like even before I even touched it, I was like so worried about this one aspect that I just couldn't touch it. Like, so I never did. And now I'm going to.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be cooler.
I don't know what they'll do about it. They're just going to leave the world tendency system as it is. I assume they probably will, but I don't know. I know a lot of people have been complaining about how it looks. I've seen people complain that it doesn't have the same sort of style as the old one, but I think it looks really good.
Yeah, people are saying like it used to be more brown and muted, and now it's too colorful. And it's like, shut up.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. I think the lighting looks really good. I think the only thing that looks bad is the death text. When it comes up on screen, you died. That looked fucking trash. It was the only thing that really put me off, and I literally said out loud on my stream that it looked terrible, and I hope it goes away. It was a real shame because everything else about it I thought looked really good.
Yeah, people had a problem with Blue Point because they did that Shadow of the Colossus remake, and it did strip away some of the visual charm of the original. I don't. I guess it's just because I don't have the same nostalgia,
like familiarity in that.
Yeah. For Demon Souls as I do Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. So
there's one thing that I am hoping for is that they work on the can't think what the word is. There were some systems in Demon Souls that are like not really well explained and also not used very frequently, so it was like a little bit confusing for people. Like there's a climbing mechanic that gets used like twice, and it isn't very well explained. So I'm wondering if they're going to explain that stuff a bit better. Oh, and also I'm wondering if they're going to add that missing area in, because that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah, because one of the archstones was broken because it was a place that they started working on and then ran out of time, so they didn't finish working on it. And the initial reveal trailer showed off a snowy area, and that was a snow area. So people are hoping that it means they're going to add in the missing stuff. I honestly don't think they will, but it'd be cool if they did.
Yeah, I mean, how was that? There was that remake of Dark Souls 1. That one didn't get super great reception.
Yeah, there was like some bugs with it. And there's one like really cool bug that I only found out about recently, where if you have your weight, I think it's like 26%, you can just roll infinitely in the air and not take fall damage. But yeah, like apparently it wasn't great. Like it didn't look great, if I'm being honest. And I'm talking purely in the looks, like some of it. It didn't. It's weird because they didn't go far enough in like making it new.
Right.
So it just kind of looked like a bit of like an up-resed old one. And it was, I think one of the issues is that the textures and stuff just looked up-resed, but then they added new stuff in, and the new stuff clashed with the old stuff. So it ended up not looking great as a whole.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know super much about it because like I wasn't particularly interested in getting it.
I think the PS5 has a pretty decent library coming soon going for it.
It'd be nice if it had more backwards compatibility, but PS4 at the very least is okay.
That's what the Xbox kind of has going for it. What do you feel about the PlayStation Plus collection with all of your PS4 games?
I think it's cool. I also think I'll never touch it.
Yeah, because I already have a PS4.
I own most of those games. It's nice, but like, there's just little things about it that bug me as well, where it's like, it's got Persona 5 in it. It's not got Persona 5 Royale in it.
It's got PS3 game Last of Us 1.
Yeah.
Which they're going to do the same thing that they did for Last of Us 1. They're going to re-release Last of Us 2, HD, special, whatever.
Yeah.
For the PS5.
Although, hopefully at the very least with that, they will just add it as a patch to Last of Us 2 as well. Like, you know, because a lot of the PS4, PS5 games, you can put your PS4 disc in your PS5 and it will play the PS5 version.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll do the same for that.
Because, I mean, they did that, but they did that for Last of Us 1. Because Last of Us 1 came out on PS3. PS4 came out less than a year later, and they re-released it full price, I think.
Yeah, it was, I think it was a year after the Game of the Year edition with the DLC. Because I know Left Behind was in it as well.
Yeah, I never ended up playing Left Behind.
Left Behind was good.
I didn't have internet to... I had that was when we were on satellite internet, and we still had data caps in the year of our Lord 2015.
Right.
Well,
shall we wrap up then?
That was a podcast.
So, we're 4 hours later, and we're going to end the podcast now because it is currently midnight, and I'm tired. So, I don't know. I don't see why you would be paying attention to how many patrons I've got, but I've got more patrons now, which is nice.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. So, special thanks to my board members, Heaven Over Hell, Justin Wood, Hobbs, and Koopy Vegeta. You can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Holden Gatsby, and for $1 a month, you'll be able to see what I'm working on early, get exclusive roles in my Discord, along with other worlds I might think of that I haven't thought of yet. You can also tell quite quickly which parts of this are things I've written down and which things I'm talking about off the top of my head, because I go from talking in this like really consistent, like smooth voice to like rambling like this.
To saying top of me head.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah, no, I ain't trashing on it.
I live quite close to Yorkshire, so there's like little bits where the Mancunian and the Yorkshire mix. So like in Yorkshire, you don't say the all that much. You say t. So instead of the internet, it's tinternet.
Internet. The internet.
It's like I'm going to shop. You can also follow me on my page. What?
Man.
Going back into my spiel and then you...
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I was thinking about accents.
I have this thing where like I can do very specific accents. Like I really like accents. I have this issue. I think I've spoken about it either with you on my podcast or with CC on my podcast. Or maybe it wasn't on my podcast at all, but I feel like I've spoken about it at some point where I don't know, it was with CC on my last podcast because I used it to talk about while I was singing and stuff. I have an issue with mimicry.
Right.
People will say things and I will mimic the things they say, or I'll mimic certain noises that I hear when like alarms go off in the street. I have a habit of mimicking the alarm going off. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
But accents are one of the things that like get me.
Me too.
So like someone will have like a specific accent and I'll mimic it.
I have that happen with like I was watching The Sopranos for a while and I just found myself slipping into the most like stereotypical it was the worst.
When you watch a lot of something and you just start talking like they do and you're like, yeah, I should probably stop. I'm like some fucking white kid from Manchester. Please stop.
Forget about it.
Like, have you ever listened to the Fratellis?
Is that a podcast about The Sopranos?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's a Scottish indie pop band.
Oh. I have
The
not.
point is, they have very thick Scottish accents, and when I listen to them, I end up singing in a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to the outro. You can also follow me on my Patreon there if you want to. That's free, and it's probably the best place to see all of my content as soon as it's available. There's links to the Patreon, along with my Discord, Twitter, Twitch, and all the other podcast platforms in the description for the episode, as well as links to all of Gary's stuff too. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.
And now you're going to do the intro again?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say bye, though.
Oh, bye. Yeah, well, I didn't. I mean, that was just a good ending.
I know it's a good ending. I was
just going to leave it on that because it was that good.
It's fine.
No,
I'm going to leave it on this now. I'm not going to cut this bit out.
You're not. I know you're not. And I appreciate
I'm going to leave
that.
this bit in. Yeah, no, it'll be better this way. In fact, what I might do is record the intro and then put this intro in at the end and put the old intro in. No, sorry, put the new intro in at the start and then put the old intro in at the end just for the people who are curious.
This is hurting my brain. This is...
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be cool. It's like midnight. I like slowly losing the plot, which is why we started talking about shit and genocide for a while. Okay, so
bye.
Oh, bye.
I don't know how to end this.
I don't know. It stopped and then we keep going. Bye. Okay, right, now I'll record my intro. Okay. Hey everyone, this time Gary's returned and there's been a shit ton of news, so we're going to go through all of that. First though, Gary, what have you been up to recently? Okay.
I've been playing a lot of... No, I'm kidding.
You don't have to, no, fuck off. Oh. Okay. Okay.
All right. Awesome. Thanks.
Right. I'm going to click the stop recording button now.
Okay.
Special thanks to my board members Heaven Over Hell, Justin Wood, Hobbs, and Koopy Vegeta.